Yeah, not to see it. Not to see it. I happened to be there and it was meeting LSE with somebody a couple years ago.
Yeah, there's like 6 things listed in your page 18. Yeah, we'll start it.
Call the meeting to Ramsey County Commission to order. We will start with our budget stuff and Susie Kenner. The Access Committee.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
First off, I have to apologize, you have the 2022 budget numbers in front of you. Usually I try and give you the fiscal year, expenses and income that we would have had from like the year before. When our office flooded over July 4th weekend, the one computer that was affected was the one that has the Lake Access QuickBooks on it, so I apologize, I can get those to you, we have a computer coming. So I recreated the budget off of last year for 2020, from 2021 for 2022. Everything pretty much stayed the same. All the income from the city, the park board, our donation box, fishing tournament, game and fish dropped slightly from 40,000 to 35,000, and then the Ramsey County went to 15,000 for the year. So our total income we're projecting for next year is $69,500. I have left all of the expenses the same for the most part for 2022. Those might go down slightly. We upgraded three of the grinders, the 2 in the year-round fish cleaning station, and then 6 Mile Bay also has the new Barracuda grinders, and then Lakewood is getting the new Barracuda grinder right now. That should be in here by the first part of August. I think that is bringing some of our expenses down because they're not breaking down as often. But I don't have the full 2021 numbers yet since the year isn't over. So I've left those expenses the same. So all in all, we're looking at an income of $210. If everything kind of stays on par. So that's all I had, unless anybody has any questions.
This budget is the correct one, I assume.
Yes, yes, I saw that, yeah. That was the one I had on my computer in Excel that I could pull over.
No worries.
So,
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't like,
So-
'cause I kept flipping through, I'm like,
Sorry, yeah, our Lake Access QuickBooks is the desktop version, and luckily our chamber is the online version. So, yeah.
Well, kind of a little off this because it has to be, but
It was a big catastrophe. Yeah, but slowly being taken care of. So,
questions? Wayne, you're sitting on that Access Committee. You got nothing to add?
thanks, Susan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Easy peasy.
It said, when I get back online, I'll send you my 2019 numbers so you can see the year data what we actually spent. Thank you. Have a great day.
Mr. Barth, how are you today?
Good, good.
Welcome, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, guys. Hopefully you turned to my page, I don't know, is it page 30, something like that? My numbers from day one, Commissioner, it's the first time you and I have talked, I guess, Commissioner Wolf, but I'm the same budget, same income, our revenue budgeted that I started with in 18. I've tried to hold to that budget and change some of the expenses over the course of the 2 years. And that was pretty much in place when I was here. So if you notice, I'm using the city's year-to-year budget, so you see actually their format. So I changed it a little bit from last year so that I can match up with the city's what's there. You can see 2021 where I am at currently. I haven't asked for any of the dollars yet, so I haven't had any funding. So that's why there's really no revenue from Ramsey and the city side other than the city sales use tax. We are pass-through. Commissioner Icon's on our board of the Lake Board. We're a pass-through too. So some of the revenue you see in the miscellaneous side for 2021 are like pass-through dollars that come in, and the expenses kind of match up to those. Really not a whole lot there other than the one major change that you'll see is we added a website. For those, like I've been part of the Chamber's website for the last, since the Chamber's full website has been around. And we now have our own website, and I encourage you to go out and look at it. Did Candy send the information, some of the highlights, or did you just put the budget form packet? We got the second page, that's got the website on the bottom of it. I think hopefully you can see it there. Should be highlighted. Yours is probably black because it's copied, but forward that was like and read that out. It's more of a site selector for people that are trying to relocate, businesses that are trying to relocate. I was on the phone today, we're finalizing it. The city's using our content, our website, as kind of a placeholder, our content management system. The city will have a new site come hopefully by the end of the fall, somewhere in that October, November timeframe. It'll look similar to ours, but when you go out to it, you'll like what you see. That it does a good job of helping explain customer part, the site selection, some very niceties of the area, that type of thing. But in the end, expenses are roughly around 158. A lot of that is yours truly, and the rest is the same 158 number as well. If you're looking at some of the highlights, I'd say potentially that you're looking at, we had a pretty good year this last year. Kojak is still baby, and people say, well, you're talking about Kojak, it's been 2 years ago. Well, it is, but it's also in that first 5 years of been business. That's been important. So they're at, roughly 30 plus employees. So we've got 2 or 3 interest buy-down programs that we did in the course of the year. We did some good incentive for childcare center slots. I noticed on the bottom, we did some childcare incentives. So we've been working on housing, childcare, workforce number one issue. My wife had a little run-in with the garage with her car, so I had to go to the auto body shop today. Ron Knudsen, Ron, you can't find someone to increase his business. So, the 2020 programs, the things that we're trying to do to get kids into some of those technical career programs. I was talking to him about it. He heard about it, but I had to have a one-to-one talk with him. He's going to look for someone to kind of get into that role that we can send to a 2-year school, come back and get work here for 3 years. So, any questions at all? Commissioner Lightbond, you've seen enough of this, I guess, being on the board.
No, not a question. The one thing I will say is we had a discussion at our last meeting with the forward board approved this budget, just basically talking about future budgets and how the city's mill levy cap and things of that nature. That if, at some point in time, if we do need additional funding, the county might have to step up just because the city's getting tapped out on their mill levy, I believe. They're contributing as much as they can right now.
Sales tax has been great. So that's been there. That could be an issue. It's probably a bigger issue with growing. The ultra green issue took a lot of the dollars away from our growth fund. Kojak getting into the building is bringing that revenue back now. So Commissioner Wolf, I'm looking at you because you didn't have some of that experience, but we're getting monthly payments now for them being in that building that are going directly back into that growth fund. So, you know, the growth fund at one time was a couple of $1 million. At its low point, it was a couple of $100,000, you know, and we're starting to build that back.
I know you're talking sales tax, I think you're gonna see a hit with a lot of businesses having to close at 3 o'clock. You can't get,
That's my fear. If they can't get some of the workers that they need, that's one of the issues, obviously. You know, so we've got to do more of helping those businesses. I'm more worried about that skilled person who keeps 20 people working than I am about the individual that might be in a fast food place. But yeah, those are the issues that we have to keep working on. And housing for the workers that do come in, that's another big part of it. Housing right now, it's expensive. And the developments in the areas that we're talking about, the type of housing we're talking about are pretty significantly more expensive than they have been in the past, obviously. So, and childcare, so that's why childcare incentives, doing what we can do to keep the slots up, helping new childcare entities start. Lake Region expanded this last year. We got another one coming out of Margie Green. She's got one that will be coming aboard. That's going to be probably 40 to 50, and between our center and us, we've got some of that as well. So, any other questions? So the good news is growth fund's going up. I think over the next year, some of the projects that we've done and funded as a Fort Dubs Lake multiple family housing, some of the leasing projects, some of the Andrews projects that were out there. The PACE funding that they had, they've decided to purchase them and get out of that funding, get out of that equation, some of the restrictions of that. So the dollars are coming straight in, going straight into the growth fund. So we had closing this last week, $75,000 input back into the growth fund, because that's how much they had gotten over the buy down program over about 9-10 years. So the way that the buy down works is the money from the city is matched 2/3, basically 1/3 by the states. State money's a grant, but our local monies are our loan dollars that have to be repaid. And if they pay off early, they pay a lump sum. So we're gonna have close to $200,000 of payout there as well. So I would anticipate the next time I get in front of you, I'll say we'll have $400,000 to $500,000 in our growth fund, which is a significant number. So
On a qualitative basis, how many new business starts you started to see? I mean, is it more or less than previous years? I mean, how is it looking? We have a healthy pipeline of interest.
you know, the bigger businesses where I spend more time on, the Kojaks, the primary sector, the outside type businesses, you know, we've got a couple, 2, 3, you know, we've got primary sector business of loan trade, there, you know, that's a new one that we help fund. We have flex-based size, we also they carry little Goslings and Lake Region Corporation, so from that standpoint. But, you know, it was my goal when I got here to talk with my board about every 2-3 years we can get a business that's primary sector, we can be anywhere from 5 to 50 employees.
So at this time, it doesn't seem like you got a lot in the future pipeline. That's what I was
I've got a couple right now, but, you know, they're 50-50. Our biggest problem is workforce, is you just need to.
Yeah, no, I'm mostly asking just out of curiosity about the economic vitality of Lake Region, you know. Assume if we were doing well, there'd be a lot of people hiring more business.
You know, we're doing well from a tourism standpoint, coming to the area of business. I think that the challenges that we have are the challenges that the state has. And, you know, they can easily look at population and see what, you know, the 3 counties make up and look at the available workforce. And so that, you know, we're not gonna go after a home run, 75 to 100, they're just not gonna get here. But can we get that 10 to 30 in a value added ag, manufacturing, food processing, you know, those type of companies? In the last 6 months, they've probably locked this down to, I can think of offhand 4, close to 6 total probably. And, you know, we're 30 to 70% depending on what we've done. They need rail and they need an industrial parkland. We're situated pretty good. The rail is a little bit of a misnomer though, because we don't actually have a spur, but we're on the short line, you know, capabilities. So we're doing some things right now for to explore how do we get a start of a spur, maybe not the whole thing, but at least get enough planning so that if the company's interested, they'll see it, they'll see what we've got for the capabilities. Having rail, having Highway 2, and having the airport, those are the three things that people are looking at. With workforce being number one right now.
We had a long discussion about this. Yeah, every meeting. It's a lot of, Brad is always really good about showing us some of the RFP basically that come in, companies looking for things, and it's a lot of the time we hit on maybe, like you said, 7 or 8 out of 10, but we're missing something, and some of it comes down to industrial park development, how shovel ready are you, things of that nature. So we've been having those long-term discussions on, how much build-out is good, but you don't want to get ahead of yourself either, because if you build out too far, then you're not building necessarily specifically what a business is looking for, and then you're just wasting money. So we've been having those long-term discussions about how do we put our region in a position to try to go after some of these. And some of them we're just ones you'll never get, when it comes to certain products or things like that they're looking for, and we maybe aren't the best yet. But
That's pretty much been the history from when I was back to the Devil's Lake. I am trying to take kind of, I don't want to say end run, but I'm trying to work with the state. There's a lot of state programs that are coming out that they can do a better job from the state to ensure that outstate, the Devil's Lakes, the Rugby's, the Harveys, some of our type cities get more of the opportunity for the dollars that they're giving away. You've heard of the lift dollars. Let's all go into Fargo and Grand Forks and Bismarck. I'm arguing big time that we got to carve some of that off for some of these smaller companies that could locate to our location. Workforce again, though, is an issue. And we're not close enough to that research institution to even be an issue. Some of the reasons they look back. Ag's got a lift type program now that is value added, so I'm really doing some hard lobby there with the Commerce Commissioner as well as the Ag Commissioner. So more to come. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brad. Big Region District Health, Mr. McKay.
Thank you. Basically, our budget is a hold even budget, and the reason we can do that is because of CARES Act money, which continues to help us out, and currently are going to be around about 2023. So that's helped a lot. We asked the same amount as last year exactly, but since the land value went up, your cost actually went down about $4,000. So that's a good thing. We are meeting with our 3 out counties, Rolette, Towner, and Cavalier, that are not in the health district. We provide environmental health for them, and it's come to the point where we can no longer do that without an additional environmental health person. So we've asked them to only up some money. The state has paid for their portion up until this point, and it's just not enough. And we're asking them a little over $5,000 from each one of those counties. We'll see what happens. I've met with them twice and made some accommodations to them. They should be meeting with their boards this week also and coming up with an answer. If they choose not to come up with money, we have decided that the Board of Health that we will be dropping environmental health services. I don't want to see that happen. We've had it, it's been 18 years since we established it. A lot of work went into it, a lot of, setup and so on and so forth. Rolette never had environmental health services before that, and it was a town. Cavalier used to be with health services, so they've had it. But it was a big push statewide to get that going. So we hate to let that go, but we can afford to subsidize those 3 counties with our 4 counties here. So that's what's going on there.
If you were to drop that down, do you have any idea what those counties would do?
Probably they would take that money from the state that is given us and so on, and hopefully try and hire one of their own. They'll find that $5,000 is a really good deal. Environmental health is expensive, and they're hard to come by. And if they got somebody brand new, training costs would be wild, you know, and so I'm hoping that they see that. And choose to stay on, but we will see what happens there.
Good luck.
Yeah, yeah, we're hoping, so anyways. And, another thing, we did, switch the final, meeting. You guys switched your meeting to October 7th. Both Pierce and Benson have done that. I'm waiting to hear from Eddie so that our, that meeting, the joint county commission meeting to approve the final budget would be on that October 7th instead of the 5th. That seems to be working out for everybody. So I'm glad to see that nobody had to make a special meeting to do that. So any other questions on any of the line items at all? Anything?
Not to beat a dead horse, but I raised this concern during the district health board meeting, so I'll raise it again before this body. Which Al has assured me is not going to be a problem, but I would be doing my job for taxpayers if I didn't bring it up. So we decided to increase salaries, obviously, to all of the staff, which is fine. And Al's view is we need to spend down, correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, we need to spend down some of the carryover money that district health has had year to year.
That's accumulated over several years.
And we have a lot of that money, but because salaries are recurring and generally only increase in cost, if we spend down that money, there may come a day where there will be a mill shock to Ramsey, where all of a sudden that gulf, which continues to grow as it's being spent out of an account rather than being paid for in taxes, when that account would run out of the ability to pay, could cause a shock to Ramsey County. So I just wanted to let you all know that, or I wouldn't be doing my job. But
That's true, you know, eventually, but like I say, I don't see that happening, this is spread, we'll have CARES Act money for the next 3 years, so that'll help us get more savings, and we're pretty efficient. We've been in this for quite a long time. The things could happen though. I mean, especially with the economic situation that we're facing. You know, land values could plummet, all kinds of things could happen. But with public health, we're kind of used to that. We have like a $2.6 million budget. All 4 counties combined only provide $626,000 of that. So it's a pretty minor piece, but still it's there. And then you're right, that could come around to bite us. But I don't foresee that in the near future.
to be clear, I voted in favor of the increase. In fact, I wasn't on that.
Well, yeah, and I guess if it's gonna cost us a little bit of money down the road to increase salaries to keep people around, that makes sense, especially when we get pretty good bang for our buck.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like the problem is there may
It's
come a
just
day
something
that
that
somebody
we
might
can
still
do.
be on this board where all of a sudden it's like, whoa, why did district health go up so much all in 1 year?
And that could happen any year, no matter if we raise salaries or not. If we lost several of our grants, you know, all of a sudden, that is the life of living on grants. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
All right, you bet.
Roger.
Other than, salary increase, I guess, my budget for the courthouse has also remained the same all the way down. Well, comes out to a total of $334,318. I do have on the county loan or building improvement, $300,000 in there for, the new generator. Which, Jeff didn't have that in his schedule earlier when I was talking to him. but you guys must have it someplace.
You building improvements?
Yes.
So, it's the third page.
Third page.
Never found it there.
So, I contacted, Butler and regarding the cost of that, generator they had, and I added in for projected cost, just like 10% for next year, you know, we got a cost for this year, plus the architect, I threw in like, I think 15% for that. So, and that's where I arrived at that figure. I certainly hope that we could get that done to that online. So,
How much do we have in that fund? How much is sitting in that county building improvement fund?
well, it's new each year.
Yeah.
Two each year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it just goes back.
It has something, it
just
goes back to the general check. I didn't know if that was a
Yeah.
singular.
Because I think we spent almost all of this, 60,000.
Yeah.
I think we spent like 55 or 53.
Okay.
So then it should just go into
Here, we need to tell me like $250,000 sitting in there.
Sorry.
Any questions so far? Okay, well then, the weed board budget, the, new mills total, 3 mills totaled 133,668, so I just added a little bit here and there in those line items just to come up with that total. And as always, it'll probably be more like about $1.5 million is what we'll actually need an increase for, because I know we'll have a carryover from this year to next. So lately, it's been running about $1.5 million. It could be a little more, could be a little less, but I'd say, you know, I don't imagine we need more than 3 mills. Can't imagine that will that much.
Roger, just out of curiosity, I know we're only partway through 2021, but what goes on in labor and unemployment that we're only at 560, we're not even at half?
We have a big bill from the state. We have a private company spray our state highways, and that will come out to $26,000.
Okay, so that just gets paid in the second half of the year.
Bill until October.
Okay, perfect. I was just curious.
Yep.
As long as it's not.
So.
Questions for Roger? Anything else?
I'm good.
You all right?
Thank you, Roger.
All right, thank you.
Big Region Heritage Center. Dave,
Hey, good afternoon,
how are you?
commissioners, doing well. I promise this is not gonna be nearly as good as what Lisa could do for you today. And then it was supposed to be Paula, so I'm way down the line. I feel like, look at you got
That's good.
I hope everybody got the letter that Lisa drafted. It's a pretty nice update on what's going on at the Heritage Center. Some of the highlights, 2021 is actually going pretty well. And we're really excited about the Lake Region Arts Festival. That was a great success for the first time ever doing it. And really that comes down to a tremendous amount of effort on Lisa's part. She's just been doing a fantastic job for us over there. We think we had 400 people come through the museum, which is really exciting. You know, that's a lot of people who come through the Heritage Center. Some excellent donations. We got a baby grand piano and a violin, the mini H directional compass. I think this is all, the letter, of course, but a little background. We were kind of able to stay afloat through the year with PPP funds that kind of took the place of generally what we'll bring in from our gala. That kept us going, and then of course, the fantastic supported through the mill levy, through the county and through the city support. So, what I guess we're looking at is nothing too out of the ordinary in the budget. Our primary expense kind of being payroll, kind of being Lisa. I think it's well worth it. She's really built up a good amount of enthusiasm for the Heritage Center. We would like to give Lisa a raise. It wouldn't be anything too significant, but we're going to put together a little committee to come up with something there. Probably Commissioner Wakefield and Paula and myself. I guess outside of that, again, nothing too out of the ordinary. The primary expenses other than payroll, you're looking at insurance, maintenance, and utilities. A couple of the larger items that we're looking at would be roof repairs. It's been patched many times and kind of needs an overhaul. And also the front steps need some leveling. But again, the Heritage Center is just I think a fantastic part of downtown Devils Lake. And, the money is very well spent. Lisa's been doing a fantastic job for us for almost 3 years. And it's fun to be a part of. So
Just the amount of volunteerism that she has brought out of the community has been really impressive. It seems like every time I walk in there are new people volunteering. I mean, she really does a very, very good job in the community, so I will back you up on that.
yeah, thank you. And so I guess, I don't know if you guys have any questions on the budget that's in front of you. I'll do my best to answer.
You guys didn't have computer problems, did you?
Yeah.
It's got the December 2018.
Yeah, that's good. Second one.
Oh,
that way.
yeah. I'm gonna blame that one on Scott.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, but no, I noticed that myself. But it looks,
But the numbers look good.
Yeah.
Other than your,
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. We'll get that.
out of curiosity, is this pretty much the same dollar for dollar that it seems like it is, but I don't quite remember now. Was this about the same we supported them for last year? Katie, would you know? About 15,000?
We're capped at what?
0.25.
25,000. We always give our maximum.
Looks good, thanks.
yeah. The roof continues to be an issue. Steps, those were repaired once before, were they? Do you remember?
The steps have never been worked on. The
Okay.
roof has been patched 2 or 3 times now.
So, but that's minor patch jobs.
Yeah.
And donated work mostly. I mean,
That's needed.
it is.
I know it's on a much smaller scale, but Roger had some work done on our steps on the south end of Memorial Building. Had some similar issues, and you may want to talk to him about what contractors we use. And really, I thought they turned out really well. Those are those marble steps, and a little different than what the Heritage Center has.
But it's probably time that we do a fundraiser and get some community support behind fixing those stairs, because they do need it.
And we continue to hear wonderful things about everything that's going on there. And so kudos to Lisa and the board of directors that are doing a great job.
And that arts festival really shows a lot of promise.
Yeah.
I mean, for that being the very first year that it was done, it was done well, and it was nice.
Yeah.
We had a lot of vendors there. It was cool.
Yeah, the artists were impressed. I think it's only going to grow, which is fun for the community.
Yeah,
So
only gonna grow, exactly right, so.
Good weather for it.
It was. It was all around. Great.
It was hot.
Worked out good, so.
Thanks for taking the time, Kate.
Okay, thank you so much.
appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
See you later.
Bethany, Hart, Airport Authority, thank you for coming in.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity for me to chat about the airport a bit today. Just a little update of some things going on at the airport. We're coming off of a really crazy year. 2020 brought us ghost town around at the airport. It was a sad time, and Our numbers now are rebounding really well. It's really good to see. It was starting, I believe April was our first month that we were actually rebounded to 2019 numbers. We were comparison to the same months in 2019. And let's see, was it June? No, I think May, we were actually ahead of what we were in 2019. So people are starting to get comfortable traveling, and it's full again, and it's good to see. We see a few full planes go out, and we really like that. As far as budget goes, our largest expenses are mainly salaries. We do have 4 full-time, including myself, and 3 combination of ARF operation. ARF is the firefighting side of it. Operations and maintenance, they do all that, including all the benefits there. Some of our other big items are the general maintenance, our advertising, and fuel. That largely varies depending on how winter goes, so that one's kind of a guessing game. And then runway maintenance, those kinds of things are some of our other big ticket items. We did receive a sizable CARES grant for the airport, which is just a huge blessing for us. I'm not sure if you're aware or not that we have to run at the same standards as, say, Chicago or Fargo. You know, these other airports that obviously receive a lot more federal funding than we do. We only receive $150,000 per year in what's called federal entitlement money, whereas say Fargo Bismarck, they're getting $1 million a year, and that's based on our passenger numbers. So we're hoping to grow that here in the coming years, but for now we have that $150,000 to work with for major projects, and it doesn't get you far. When you start doing pavement projects, you can only do a little piece for that amount of money. So basically what this CARES grant is doing for us is going to allow us some opportunities to do things we need and wouldn't be able to do. Some of our higher priority projects, we're looking at doing a large terminal expansion / improvement. There is definitely need in our holding area. So that's once you get through the security checkpoint, it's very tight back there. There's only one bathroom. There isn't vending. Those are some of the things that we're looking to improve, expand that area quite a bit. We'd also like to get a proper baggage claim area where there would actually be a belt that would come through rather than just the garage doors that open, and it gets very cold in the winter when both those doors open, that freezes up the whole terminal within seconds. So those are a few of the things we're looking at fixing in the terminal that would come along with improvements to the entrance road and the parking lot, and then possibly some new equipment, and possibly even we're looking at the possibilities of expanding our current building into the building right next door, which is our maintenance shop. So if we were able to utilize that space, then we'd be looking at a new maintenance shop facility. But that is, we had plans to be able to do everything, and then with the rising costs, all the materials getting so much more expensive, we're gonna wait and see how budget numbers come in before proceeding on all that. And that would all be taken care of by CARES grant. So it's kind of separate thing from this, but things that we're really excited about and looking forward to accomplishing here in the next 3 years. That's the caveat, is they put a timeline on us, a really tight timeline. So there's no time to waste there. So as far as the budget numbers that we're requesting from the county, I'm gonna just review a bit of history here. So that the airport, in the far past, we've received 4 mills, and I believe it was in 2010 went down to 3 mills. There had been a budget surplus the year before, so went back down, and the plan at that time was that by 2018 we'd have the county back up to 4 mills. And I know that that's too big of a jump in 1 year, and they talked about that last year in 2020, that we would start adding a 1/4 mill each year for the next 4 years. So this year I'm requesting 3.25 mills from the county, and we have some budget balancing to do. As of now, even with the 3.25 mills, we're running at a bit of a shortfall. We come to about 19,000 of a shortfall in the budget. So like I said, there's a few things there that there's some wiggle room for, kind of depending on how winter goes. And then I have my budget meeting with the city next week to finalize what we might be crunching from here on out. Another avenue that I'm exploring is for advertising. There's been some advertising dollars available through SkyWest. So I'm eligible for receiving $20,000 of marketing money to do collaborations with them. They get to make the rules, but if they're writing the checks, I'll let them make the rules.
Just as a quick question, can you tell me what 3.25 mils comes out to?
It
I-
comes-
I've not seen that
Hundred and
number.
44,806.96.
So I can't even do it. That's what she was doing. I was trying to do it in my head, ballpark.
I can choose that one.
I was excited, it said zero there for a while.
Yeah.
Hey, this is some money.
Bethany's exactly right, though. You know, last year, we had a little adjustment. We talked with the airport board and Bethany and decided not to go up to full 4 mils all at once and kind of have a gradual rate increase instead of a sticker shock. And, you know, I think the airport board for going along with that, and the city and Bethany, and, you know, we make it work, but I do encourage her to continue that 0.25% rise every year, just to get up to that 4 mil.
Is 4 mils the cap?
Yeah.
Yes. And part of what's really benefiting us there with our CARES grant, which is the 4-year deal, if we do the 0.25% each year, by the time our CARES grant is done, then we'd be back to that 4 mils. Yeah, it was back in 2010 that both the county and city went down to 3 mils, and both the cap on both of those is 4, and the city went back up to 4 mils in 2017, and we haven't done that yet with the county, but yeah, if we do the 0.25% a year, I think we'll make it work to get it back.
Out of curiosity, this isn't related to budget, but where are we at for board meetings here today?
Oh, year to date, you would ask that, and I don't know that one off the top of my head. We had 587 in June. July was a bit higher, so I can't remember exactly what January and February were. Those were still pretty low. So I'll have to get back to you on what the year to date number is. I can send you our employment spreadsheet, and then you can see all of them. But yeah, January, February, we were still scraping. At that point, pretty much the numbers that were getting us by was the soldiers from Camp Grafton that actually kept Devil's Lake higher than any of the other commercial service airports in the state all through COVID. So we were really grateful for that. I mean, we were still down. We went down as much as 96% in April of 2020 was as low as we dipped, and we were still above other airports in the state. It was crazy. Yeah, literally ghost town. The only days you'd see people are when that white bus was outside of the soldiers, but they helped get us.
2,663.
Thank you.
What were we at in 2019? Is that
2019, we had ended the year at 6,973.
and 10,000 is what we really.
The 10,000.
Even 8,000. 8,000 is our first big jump. So we were just shy of 7,000 passengers in 2019, which is the $150,000 entitlement. Once we get to 8,000 passengers, we jump to $600,000 in entitlement. Ultimately, once we get to 10,000 passengers, that's how we get the $1 million. But even to jump from 150,000 to 600,000 will be fantastic. Yeah.
So what you're really saying is the county commission needs to start meeting and where my.
Wherever.
Yeah, 10 free plane.
Yeah.
I
We
would
just
love
hop on the
that
plane and they roll around.
There you
and
go.
land again.
I would love at some point to start running some charters. You know, I mean, I always say we have a lot of crazy Sioux fans and a lot of crazy Bison fans, and they're good teams, and they usually end up in Frisco in the Hall of Fame hockey game. I would love to run a charter. Even that right there would be a good bump, and we have some work to get there, and obviously we have to get the economy and the traveling public.
What's the percentage of the military that's your 1/4%?
I don't know exactly what the percent. Yeah, I would say at least 1/4%. Yeah, And that is up a lot from a few years ago. So the military, I guess they have their own, for lack of a better term, kind of their own travel agency that they have to book through a certain thing, and they didn't even have Devils Lake listed as an airport a few years ago. So some work was done. This was shortly prior to my time, but there was some work done to get that added to that site. So that helped a lot. That was a good boost for the Devils Lake Airport numbers.
For clarity, you mean it's 25%, right? Not a quarter of a percent? Because you both said
Yeah,
a quarter.
yeah,
A quarter
yeah.
percent, I'm like, yeah, it seems like that's pretty low.
A quarter of the total.
Yeah, quarter of the
Total
total.
is 25, yeah, got it. I assumed that too.
That is a pretty good number though.
Just
Mhm. Yep, and I know that we still lose quite a few of the soldiers flying to Grand Forks depending on connections. So it's something I was working on. Flight schedule's a big challenge right now. I think airports across the whole country are experiencing that. So with COVID, there were so many layoffs, a lot of furloughs, and it wasn't just the flight crews and the pilots. That's what people automatically go think, but a lot of the ground crews. I know that American Airlines themselves, this was, about 3 weeks ago, there was one Saturday that on one day alone, they had 100 cancellations because they didn't have enough ground crew. And this is in the country. And they expected between 50 and 80 cancellations per day that whole week simply due to not having enough ground crew. And what happens is they let go of all these employees during COVID, and then it's not as simple as just bringing them all back. They need to train. So the numbers came back faster than expected, and the training isn't there. It just takes some time. So we're actually kind of fortunate that SkyWest hasn't seen the huge cancellations that some of these other airlines have, but we're noticing changes in the flight schedule that aren't favorable to us. But I think we're just riding it out until we can. I'm always on the phone and emailing, and they kind of tell me I'm lucky, and I'm going, I don't know about that, because the connections aren't as great as we would like them sometimes, but.
It's a great airport, great connections, reasonable prices. You know, my wife has used it, in April to Austin. Denver to Austin was a direct flight and, $360 round trip. Going to Portland the end of this month, and $320 round trip, so.
It's always worth it to check Devils Lake. That's what I always tell people.
And it's free parking.
Yep.
And, it beats having to drive back from Grand Forks, Fargo, or Minot when you're tired from a vacation and flying back in.
There's nothing worse than when you get home and then have a long drive to get back
It's
home.
almost always more affordable if you look when you're going west. It's almost always.
It's a great facility, great service, and, providing that those connections in Denver work out. Like you said, with the staff shortages, we haven't had the issue here, but they've had them connecting flights out of Denver, and that's always an issue that we can't control. But any questions for Bethany?
No, it's a pleasure to finally meet you.
That's for another time, too. A while ago.
Well, it's nice to meet you again then.
You're just forgetting.
That's right.
All right, well, thank you for hearing my plea here today. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Bethany. Ignacio, library. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone.
How are you?
Pretty good. I'm a bit worried about the parking spot I chose, but we can't all be winners here. I got some pamphlets for the board regarding some of the arguments I'm going to make today.
Arguments,
Friendly discussion.
negotiations, how's that?
Yeah, this one.
A friendly chat, really.
I only have the one. But do you have one more?
Yes, I do.
Let's do that.
Sure.
So I suppose I should give a little bit of a backstory to how the library is doing since the last time I was here. So ever since we reopened back up, we started with 800 attendance per monthly for the library. But ever since as of now, the numbers have been increasing steadily. We've been bringing programs back. Circulation numbers are back, DVD numbers are back. And we've gone from those 800 to, as of currently, 2,700-ish people in attendance. And through it all, we have managed to keep on trucking, keep on giving events for the public, of course, such as the summer reading program, the book club for the library. We have opened up spaces back again. We followed the CDC recommendations all throughout the year to give the best public safety available for the people of Devil's Lake. And with that being said, that leads me to today, where I would like to ask for an increase to the overall salaries of pretty much everybody working at the library, plus making my assistant director a full-time employee. With that being said, I do have some arguments to justify those increases. Higher wages will, of course, lead to better retention. Since 2019, 6 employees have resigned. Staff has cited low wages as a reason to retain staff who are skilled and knowledgeable of their jobs. This results in better performance, more consistency in terms of the services we give. Also, to be kept in mind, 3 months are required for training new employees at the entry level. To compensate employees for the extra duties resulting from eliminating a library position, we used to have a book repair person who not only repaired said books, but also labeled them and made them available to the public. That person has since chosen to retire. So circulation librarians, which are basically our basic starting position for librarians, have to pick up those duties, of course. They'll also have to pick up DVD repairing, audiobook repairing, book labeling, and book jacketing, which all takes considerable chunks of time. And, it's one of those deals where they have to do it, kind of when squeezing some time away from attending the public. Also another argument is to make the salaries more competitive. Librarians require specialized skills such as database, customer service, interlibrary loans, microfilms, and software, all which require, some teaching, of course. At the entry level, as discussed before, requires at least 3 months of teaching, and that's not even counting deeds. Specialized librarians, persons who are more in the higher totem pole, require those skills as well, plus additional skills such as cataloging, new item selection, event organization, presentation skills, and more. This is not just for those reasons above, but it's also to stay competitive with other entry-level jobs around Devil's Lake, as listed in the graphics below. As you can see, we start off our entry levels at $10, but other places around town have significantly increased starting wages for their entry-level employees. We also talked to other libraries around North Dakota with similarly or lower size populations. For example, in Newtown, North Dakota City Library, which has a population of 2,592, they pay their part-timers $18 an hour starting. In the Hazen, North Dakota Library, which has a population of nearly 2,500, part-time staff starts at $12.25 an hour. In McLean, Mercer, North Dakota Regional Library, which has a population of 9,584, part-time salaries ranges from $12.40 to $18.08 an hour. And Valley City, North Dakota Library, which has a population of 6,460, which has part-time staff who work from $29 to $38 an hour. So a week, they start at $12 an hour. And as stated before, I also want to make my assistant director a full-timer, since the library is open 47.5 hours a week. One full-time position, which would be me, the library director, is not sufficient to provide adequate oversight for the time period. Another full-time position is warranted for the level of responsibility and coverage of hours for a community of this size. These are just some of the justifications having a full-time or assistant director would lead to, such as more events planning and assistance on those, training to assist the directors with preparations of those in budget reviews, and the new assistant director could, of course, take on other new tasks such as more social media and website posting, which is very useful for advertising and keeping those numbers that we currently have on. Add adult programming such as an increase in membership in book club, summer reading program for adults, outdoor speaker events for adults, and knitting club and exercise or walking programs for adults or seniors, for computer training for adults, which is very much needed. Library inventory needs to be done, editing, acquisition, and the acquisition of library materials needs to be done. Library shelves are very full, materials need to be current and updated, and more personal assistance for patrons in the library to offer a recommendation and assist patrons in finding new materials. And those would be my arguments. Any questions regarding the arguments?
What, you're saying that we're set at $10 an hour to start right now. What are you looking to start the part-time for that?
Okay, so I have that listed on the budget request. Let me see again. So I would like to. I would like to start them off at $15 instead. Same with the weekend librarian, so we can have at least one more permanent person working those hours. Does the board need more clarification about the other salaries?
I don't know. I guess I understand where you're coming from. I just was kind of curious where you thought we needed to slot in against other, so we can attract and retain employees. Okay.
Yeah, I would think starting at $15 would be.
That's not unreasonable. I don't think if you look around where everybody's kind of started. The other question would be probably for Candy. What's our mill levy cap on the library? 3? Can't remember. Or 4. Okay. What's the city's mill levy cap? Same?
6.
6.
Yeah, 6.
It's always easy when I get a little bird.
So are they capped out at their number then?
No, they're not. And I bear responsibility for that. As you can remember, we made this exact same argument at budget time last year. I guess you may not know that. And we approved that budget to include the full-time position for an assistant director, basically under the argument that that library serves how many thousand patrons a month on average?
Well, back before pre-COVID times, it was at least the mid 3,000 to 4,000 average number. We're rapidly scaling back to those pre-COVID numbers. We're at least at 2,700 right now.
That's weekly?
No,
Monthly. Okay, sorry.
So but there is no business in this community that serves that many people and only has one full-time employee. And so my suggestion is basically one of my last acts as president of the library board was ask the county for all the increase you need so that the city can't shoot down the budget and then it fails to happen, because if they don't give their half of what would be the full-time salary, you can't hire somebody for half the salary. That makes sense. And going forward, my thought would be, and that could be Adam's thought, but that it should give you pretty good leverage with the city to put costs on the city going forward, with like look how much more the county is spending on your city library.
And the people working under me, they work hard, they love their jobs, but I really feel they should be compensated better because, loyalty and love to your job will only take you far, but you also gotta support them just as they support you.
Well, I guarantee if you went back to a $10 an hour, so you're getting a $5 an hour job, it'd be pretty.
The other question I would have is other communities like Valley City, for instance, do they have a full-time director and a full-time assistant director?
Yes.
Okay. I kind of assumed so, but I wanted to ask the question so that because I've looked at this before and then asked them, see if we're looking at funding previously. So
Currently, they're at 2.2.
Question that I have is, permanent salary, going up, obviously, an assistant full-time librarian, correct?
Yes.
So the part-time salaries are going down, but actually the salary is gonna increase?
So let me explain that. The reason why it went down on the chart is because we took the assistant director from the chart and put it in the permanent position.
So essentially that you're taking 11,000, moving it up, and then you're adding another 30,000 to the line to basically make a full-time position. On top of the fact that you're actually taking more than that out because you're adding dollars to the temporary salaries for everybody else to make it function, so. Yeah, makes sense.
Not to mention it's a position that requires a library degree, of course, and so you want to compensate somebody who has that level of experience as has worked in that level of libraries. Especially since they're essentially me when I'm not around, so.
And that state funding number, remind me, that's capped out at that 18.7, correct?
Until such time as the library goes from there are several categories, and the category that we're in is developed, and then there's a category above that called future focused. And I think if you end up in the future focused category, it would represent what, like $4,000 or $5,000 more a year in the library?
I would need to check that information further, but yes, it would lead to a significant increase in funding.
What does it take to become future focused? Just more programming, things of that?
Yeah, we've been
So things that we needed-
working on it.
Things that we would provide if we had additional staff hours.
Gotcha.
Staff.
And Lucas, explain to me again why the big increase to the county and not to the city?
Sure. So if you'll recall, we made this exact same request a year ago. And the county approved it. We were all in favor of it at that time. At least it seemed like it. And the city rejected it and chose to fund the library at the level they had funded it the year prior. So then you'll recall that as we were coming into budget time, I said, you may as well strike the, whatever it was, 19,000, I think was what the increase on us was then. You may as well strike that from the budget because the library can't use it if we're not getting enough money to fund a full-time position anywhere. And so because I think, or thought, now I'm no longer the president, but because I thought that this is that important, and because I think that it would make the library that much better of a service and function that much better, I didn't want to put the increase broken out because I thought there'd be a pretty reasonable chance that the city would do the exact same thing again. And then we'd have to strike it again.
And you haven't had an opportunity to present your budget or with the city, or have they decided on their budget yet for the library?
Not yet. It's supposed to take place on the 29th at noon.
But I would think that in the future, I mean, you basically make the argument that the increases that the library need going forward would go to the city and not the county, because the county's already so much further ahead than the city. But this way, you actually can get to a point where you have 2 full-time staff members.
So what's the city at right now? We're at 2.2 million, what's the city getting? You know that?
I think it's 3.5.
I thought it was if I can say, I mean, I'm the library board president now, and I'm pretty sure it's at like 5, or it was, by bringing it up to 4 or 3.2, it was, almost making the percentage of the available mill cap about even between the county and the city, is, if I remember right. I didn't double check my emails, but, and then we had talked about working on increasing services, to reach out to the county residents more, because we do understand that this is an additional cost to the county. So for example, we haven't talked about this in the board, but there are such things as like book vending machines or different things that you could get to, reach out to the county more. And, so we're thinking about, in my head, and gotta talk about certain board, but like going after grants as another funding source for more opportunities for the library. But again, if you don't have the staff who can be there to, implement a grant that you get,
So my question was, we're at 2.2, they're at 5, and they're all 6, or.
Well,
together we're at-
they can go to 6, but their mills are only.
Their bills are only worth, what's the city mill right now? That much?
Okay. No.
Yeah, because the library is one of only 2 entities that we fund, I believe, that they split the mills, or maybe 3. We board this, not we board, this and, airport and library, they split out the city mill versus the county mill. So, yeah, the city could fund more, but we're gonna keep having this conversation unless one of us steps up and just takes care of it, and unfortunately, I think it's gonna have to be done.
It's always us.
Yeah.
But that was my thought, and that was basically what I said to the library board, is I said, I think I can defend this on your behalf before the county commission and say that it is necessary from my perspective as the former president of the library board for 5 years. I mean, we wanted to do this 2 years into my.
I don't think they're asking crazy amounts of money.
No, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I come back to the concept of any place you wanna go get a part-time job in town now, it's $15. I mean, how can we ask quality people to come work at basically a volunteer?
You're not coming in here and asking for $5 an hour over what others are paying.
If you're just trying to stay current, and every board I've sat on, that I sit on outside of this board as well as this board, we've had this conversation in the past year, is that wages are starting to escalate, which is good for the working, for the people that are receiving those wages, but it really puts a pinch on the budget. We just got to figure out how to make it work.
Well, Mr. Mendez is doing a good job, and we don't wanna lose him, and by overworking him, we're gonna get, so. So,
No, like gray hairs in my hair before my 30s.
It'll make you look distinguished.
Yeah.
That's what I tell myself.
My girlfriend appoints the same.
just for men, using for yours.
Russian stuff.
Yeah. Oh, great. I have no other questions. I think, hopefully the city will step up and see our commitment to the library, so, thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
And
Thank
we
you very
have,
much for your time.
we have board members and just non-board members here too, wanting to support the library, so.
We appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys coming in. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks for marking the baby stock. And then behind that, I put a spreadsheet from the
Yes,
state library.
of what will be
You have to have a 3-year average in order to receive state aid funding, and we were $437 last year. So they didn't get the county's portion of the state.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Sure.
So they
And because of the clerical error, they didn't get it the year before either. So.
Yeah.
So in other words, if we go up, we want to probably then.
So that's, the 2 gals that I visited with at the state library helped.
They can't manage this bunch of numbers.
Nope.
Yes.
No.
Come on. I'll send them a chat.
Well, and we had caught the clerical error 2 days after the budget deadline. And it was literally that a no got checked instead of a yes.
Yes. And it wouldn't let us change.
So, whatever.
Yeah.
Sarah, extension service. Thank you for coming in.
Yes. Okay, so our budget really has not changed much, except for an increase in salaries. We're unsure of what our aid agent salary will be. They'll retire. So, my district director is planning on coming today. That's not my district director. Just to kind of gauge your interest in possibly rehiring another egg agent for our office. What your feelings are and hiring a new person and just starting that process.
Yes.
If we could have started it like a few months ago, that would be great.
That's kind of what I thought. So,
Yeah, I don't think, I guess from.
you know, if you want her to formally ask you, for the next meeting, and you can hold it off even longer, but if you wanna work, Adam, since you're a portfolio, if you wanna maybe work with her on, wording of everything and,
On hiring, on the, what we're.
Yeah.
Job description.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course. Do we need a motion from our board that we want to ask
Would you like that?
our agent?
I would be okay with it, then we can get the ball rolling and,
Just to say we wanna hire another extension agent.
To be part of the process?
Well, no, we just want to request that we get the hiring process started, yes.
And probably that we'd be willing to participate in the salary as we did before.
exactly, yeah, participate in that as well as, a member on our committee, affairs committee and
Yeah.
that process as well.
So
I'll make that motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second to go ahead and ask extension to fill Mr. Otis's position, the extension date services.
Perfect.
Is that
That's
fair?
great, that's great. Yeah, we'd love to get going on that.
Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much, Sarah, and budget looks good.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And
Anything else for us?
I was gonna say, just, is it Dina?
Yes, her name's
Dina.
Dina,
I
yeah.
can't remember if it's Dina. I wanna say
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
I just, give her my email and then just, I can get in contact with her.
Okay.
We can get working on stuff. That'd be
Yes.
fantastic.
I will do that, for sure. I know IDSU was definitely in favor. of rehiring him too.
Oh, we gotta get in the queue.
What's that?
We have to get in the queue, because there are other counties ahead of us that are looking as well.
Exactly, yes.
And my question, I guess, it's related to the budget, but, and I suppose we'll probably learn more as we go in the process, but what is it gonna take to hire a new agent in terms of salary and things of that nature?
Right, yeah, that would be a good question for Dina, I'm sure it'll depend on experience and then, their degree, you know, if they have a master's degree, I know NDSU does add a chunk there, so.
But
Yeah.
Putting the budget in at Bill's whole number is probably gonna give us some wiggle room for.
Exactly, yeah, he came in with quite a bit of experience and he is one of the higher paid agents in extension, so
Okay.
it'll.
And we got wiggle room down,
Mhm.
make sure we got the right number.
We could have interest from other counties.
Absolutely, yeah, we could have multiple people with experience.
I think the quicker we work with the extension to get it going, the better off we're gonna be. Just make sure that we got the right number. That's people that are interested.
Yeah, we've had several phone calls asking if it's open and we can apply, and so.
That's good. That's good to hear. Our reputation maybe proceed as a positive thing.
Okay.
All the questions I have. Thanks, sir.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Great job on the static exhibits last week.
Oh, thanks, yeah, everything just got sent to the fair, so,
That was really cool.
yeah, it's always fun.
Great.
Everything went very well with our achievement days, so
Thank you.
we're glad. Thanks.
Candy,
Yes. Okay. Page one. That's not too bad. Page one would be commission budget. The only two line items that I reduced was the travel and dues and registration. Didn't really seem to hit the top budget number, so I brought those down a few dollars. I left the capital outlay, if in the future we wanted to do, tablets or kind of the setup as the city has. Kind of like that setup.
That's kind of a neat setup. The
Seems almost too official for us, so doesn't it?
the monitors in front of us.
Yeah.
It does look good, I'm sure it looks great.
Plug in the laptop and away we go.
Take out the phone. I got these papers in front of me though. I'm kind of a paper guy, I'll just start pouring on here and look for stuff. Makes me feel like I'm doing something.
You can sit up here.
Yeah. Yeah. Or my mouse just moved all of them.
There you go.
There you go.
Candles, this on the right page.
Okay, so that's for that one. If you have any questions,
Page 2 is exactly the same.
page 2 stayed exactly the same.
That's what we like.
Page 4. Just this, the, salary recommendation, just a little bit of increase in the technology. Otherwise, everything else is the same. Page 11.
So, is something? Or is this always?
Page 11 stays the same, and then if you turn one more, like the association dues.
Stay the same.
Yep. Where are we at? 13. Those are the insurance. State fire and tornado, that was our, I think the calculator was just a little over 10,000. Not quite 11, so. Liability, of course, went up a little bit. The vehicles. Let me start at page 17. Mental health expense, just kept that the same. Coroner, I just kept the same. Audit fees, there's no increase because they've been doing everything by email, telephone. I think it's the wave of the future for them. I think they were going to review, coming in person every other year, just to add a little bit of a twist to like pulling random things instead of, having me pull that random thing and.
Suppose from their standpoint, the more they can use virtual teams type stuff, that makes their employees probably happy.
And I believe those employees are still working from home.
Yeah.
So. Which, it's a little bit more of a lengthy process doing everything by email. But it's going good so far. They should be wrapping it up either the end of this month or the beginning of next month, so. of that.
Cemetery,
The figure came from Kevin, 6,400. County fair. They always apply for 1 mil. There's Rogers, building improvement for the generator. 100,000. Health insurance, I just figured, the 5%. Because they just gave us a range of 0 to 5 and I went with the 5 and hopefully it's 0.
I think it's crazy that their top end of the range they gave you is 5%. Okay.
Well, I don't think that we've seen any large, like in years past.
Yeah, it is dependent upon our usage, and our usage has been pretty reasonable.
Dental and vision, we're seeing a few more employees taking that into consideration now and actually using it. So, which is good. One part that was Susie's budget. Advertising, I don't budget for that anymore. We've never used it I went back 10 years. So, the Oasis and Social Security, that's, just the increase to keep up with the cost. Night. Miscellaneous general, I got that this year. More things seem to come out of miscellaneous general lately. Planning and zoning, I kept the same. Put a question mark beside the home rule charter. We're 0.
Unless somebody else wants to pick up that cost.
I think we got our answer.
And then it kind of gives like a miscellaneous breakdown of things that come out of that fund. I don't know who is in charge or who's doing anything with the community shelter. I haven't gotten anything from them. Anybody know who I would contact for that?
What do we get?
We ended up getting nothing, didn't we?
No, they got 12.
Did they actually use it, or? I thought they said they were trying to back it.
I haven't got anything back yet.
We budgeted 12 and nobody used it.
Well, they were closed down, but over April or March, whatever it was.
Because they got their money and then they said they were closing.
Because I talked to Nick.
Yeah.
She said that she was gonna talk to them about sending it back because they weren't going to use it, so I don't know what exactly happened there. Maybe they dispersed it out or something to other entities, I don't know. I have to check with them and see if they had a board. I don't even know who we would be in contact now. I know the one that they were talking about downtown was, I think, Amachi, or that's not Amachi, was working on it, but I don't know if it's still a thing
So
or.
would that be
Brenda Berger, I
Brenda?
believe, yes.
Okay?
I mean, she might be one to talk with about it, but right now I think it's kind of, I don't know if it's on the back burner, but it's non-existent. They just haven't come up with a plan.
Yeah, I'll email her.
I still think it's probably reasonable that maybe we, try to include something, just so we have something in case something gets going, but we could always pull it on a general too, if we have some additional dollars or something to happen. Maybe like a new startup basically.
Yeah, that's kind of why I increased it, just because of all the different things that are.
it's not like since it's not there anymore, the need went away.
Right.
It's just, they
It just
trying to make it run.
falls under a different.
No, I think if we wanna stay at, what did we say, if we had 12 in there? Leave the 12 in for now, and if we want, like I said, it's not like we won't be able to find $12,000 somewhere. If they get something going and come to us, we can always pull it out of the budget, but we got general fund dollars, we can find $12,000 the time comes to eat, too, so. Or whatever they're looking for, I guess. But we'll see what happens.
I'll see if I can get in contact with somebody.
Yeah, so we have that,
And then the last one I have is page 34. That's the bond, that we pay every year. The same.
Old road project, right?
Yes.
We're still paying for bonds from back in the 90s when they were trying to get roads out of water, with the FEMA matching funds. Correct?
Oh,
Yeah, they're what, 20-year bond runs or 30-year bond runs or something like that.
They were from 20 to 30, I think. And the very last one gets paid out in 28.
They took out, yeah, must have been 30-year ones. They were basically, they just couldn't fit it in the budget because we were capped out, and they had to get the roads out of the water, and that's the only way they could get the match money with money.
it was like 5 roads underwater, so it was major.
And you weren't gonna leave, what, was 90-10 probably at the time with FEMA, 80-20?
Yeah, it was 80.
Yeah,
It was federal dollar.
Yeah.
Wasn't FEMA.
But it was, there were federal dollars coming, you weren't gonna leave federal dollars on the table, get the roads out of the water, so you bonded them.
It's still impressive they were able to get that vote passed.
Yeah.
That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Looks good to me, Ken.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah, I just for that reason.
Take a 2-3 minute break before we resume our regular 5:30 meeting time.
But
I brought my answer out notes, but, just want to make sure.
Thing on the highway, it's 1.10.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked that we got, it's trees.
Yeah, that cap, that one career I was seeing you guys once in the show. Oh, did you get?
Is that just
Just because you don't come except for when I'm lecturing, is that?
Oh, I had all 3 kids. We got 80. 80? I was happy with that.
I had 86, so, you had quite a bit over there. Yeah.
255.
It rained so hard.
And it was just about perfect, because it came inch 47 in the morning, and then got another 70 in that second shot, and then we got another 37 overnight.
How far north did it go? How far north did it go?
It's a good question, I don't know. I would assume they probably ended up pretty good all the way up through that 17 quarter, because there's a lot. It was raining even probably better east of me than it was on the first one, that first one away, it was coming out like crazy.
It rained so hard.
Yeah, that one that came through, boy, I was trying to get stuff put under cover, and it came up, and I was like, holy heck. Yeah, and I couldn't even, I was sitting in my shop, and that's like a couple of years ago, I was doing my house.
So we'll resume the, Ramsey County meeting, during in the pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on our agenda would be the approval of minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Any additions to the agenda?
Move for this.
Second. Motion and second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First item on our agenda is Mr. Jager, emergency drought declaration.
Yeah, I know we were discussed at the last meeting about drafting up the declaration. We had amazing rain. We were just discussing that prior to the meeting. I do know that the county was in, prior to this, they were in D2 and D3. Unfortunately, the map is not updated. It is still map release date of July of, the 15th of July. So hopefully this rain that came through will help with the drought issues. But if you guys want to postpone this until the next meeting, or if we want to send, get the declaration in place, it's entirely up to you guys. There's some great rain.
But
I think we should have it in place.
I think so too.
If the programs come down, that's all right. I'll make.
Okay. We have a motion and a second that we go ahead and approve the drought emergency declaration that Chris has presented, and any further discussion?
Thank you, Chris.
Just because we got a little bit of rain doesn't mean.
Let's hope we get some.
Well, and we're still in a pretty market deficit.
Yeah.
That's what we're on. So it's, yes, this is gonna help, but this is not the.
It's not the answer.
It's not the only deal. It's a big help. It's gonna get super wild.
I don't think they got much of a lot like food.
Yeah, certain places they can't get it.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Drought declaration is hereby approved. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
Chris, did you have anything else?
Nope.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sheriff Nelson,
Good evening.
good evening. Thanks for coming in.
Had a few things happen in the last couple of weeks, and I just thought, well, this is our shot to see if I can find some funding for this, for some radar equipment for our department. We've had 2 go down, and of course, as I'm sure the board knows, we have been using surplus property radars simply because we haven't had the ability to do a lot of traffic, and I didn't see an expense to have, very expensive equipment that we aren't really using. Well, with the help that we've been given by the county with the extra people. We've been doing fantastic with traffic enforcement in the county. It's considerably good, and I have not one complaint about it, so. They're doing a good job of it. So I've had 2 go down in the last 2 weeks. And I don't have any spares, and state surplus doesn't have any, we don't know if there's any coming. So the issue I have is to send them in. It's $200 just for them to tell me what's wrong with it. And then whatever it is to fix it beyond that. So for something that's already surplus property when we got it, I thought if we could use maybe some of the money that the state had given us to purchase some new ones. And then once we can start getting into the, we can start budgeting for it yearly. So that's kind of what my thought process was. You should have quotes from the, that is the state bid price on a car radar, the 2192? That's the state bid for the one that's the low end, but that's the only one we need. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles and the things that other, departments need, but it's completely functional, and that's probably the most popular in use in the state of North Dakota. And I'd like to get 10 of those. And I could have 1 for each car. They do come with I did call the rep, and he said that's the best price they can't give us a volume discount or anything like that because of that price. They do come with a 3-year warranty. So we do have 3 years, and then as we go, we can start looking at putting one on a replacement type system. But I would also like to get 1 or 2 of the handheld LiDAR units to have special circumstances dictate that we need something different than what we have with our, I'm sure you all know what a squad car sitting sideways on the road, you know what they're doing, right? Well, with the LiDAR, we have a little more control because it's a handheld unit. We can put our cars in, for example, the Cove Road, going through the trees. Really tough to find a spot to sit and do anything appropriate because of just the nature of the road. And there's other spots around that, but anyway, it would facilitate us a little better chance. So the total is about 25,000 to do everything.
25,510.
Okay. And I guess I would like to see if we could maybe try that. Like I said, I'm kind of exhausted my other options at this point, so I thought, well, if this doesn't work, we'll send them in and get them fixed. But
You said so 2 of them went down, the other 8 still have them, but they're all surplus.
Well, they're all surplus, and I don't have any spares. We've used them all, so I don't have any sitting. When we put new deputies on last year, I had spares because they go down. So but now we've used them, so I don't have any left, and state surplus doesn't have it.
So when they usually go down, you send them in, what do they say?
Usually when they go, well, we haven't done, I usually call them and say, well, what's it getting? It's usually, well, it's gonna cost you $200 for us to tell you what's wrong with it. And then it takes whatever it is to fix it, depending on what's wrong with it. Some are minor, some are big.
Well,
And
in the GPS.
in the past, if one went down, I had a spare, we just put the spare in and the other one went in the box.
If we get you new ones, will you still send the old ones in, see if it's something simple? So that way you have spares again?
Well, I won't, because I'll take the ones that are still currently working and save them.
Oh,
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll save the ones that we have that are currently working, and I'll keep them. And then we'll just, we paid $200 for these from surplus property. So the county's not out a lot of money, as far as if you're looking at it that way. But what the plan is, whatever ones are still currently working, we would save those and use those as a temporary or, like for example, if one of the new ones goes down, we have to send it in for warranty. I can throw one of the old ones in, they can use it for the month or whatever it takes for them to get them back to us. So we have something.
Would we be taking this out of your budget or is the general?
Oh, I didn't budget for it. I was thinking this is more out of the state money that we received, the COVID money.
I'd say use the COVID money that we.
That's not what I was thinking.
Yeah, in that case, I'll make a motion to approve, was it 25, whatever it was?
25.5 something. Candy has it.
25,510.
I do appreciate that.
Just one question, is
Yes, sir.
project eligible for that money? Yeah, there is no,
Did the first round.
First round, and that's why we did it now.
Second one.
The second one's gonna have conditions on it. So I thought we could get it in now.
We've only spent, 20 or 30,000.
I think we have 400 and
Okay, kind of the same fund that we use for senior meals and.
Ooh, ooh.
It's something else you need?
No, I'm just kidding.
This is gonna be very beneficial.
Don't put $400,000 in my head here. I could go
This is
wild.
gonna be very beneficial to the sheriff's office.
Absolutely. It's what we kind of do. I mean, it's our, our traffic enforcement kind of runs on that. So,
You'll make it up to speed fine then?
well, do you want the explanation of where speeding fines go?
Depends on what road you sit on, right?
Nope. Everything goes through district court. It all goes to the court system, and every fine you pay goes to fund education. So we don't get a dime of it.
That's why I speed everywhere. I care about the kids.
Care about the kids. I'm helping our education system. So there's no worry that we're out there just writing tickets to get the county more money. That's another point. We don't get a dime of it. So. But we have found a lot of things coming off of our enforcement. Other things down the road.
Motion and a second on the floor for purchase of the radar and utilizing the COVID dollars that we have. I think it's the CARES Act, was it? That's what they call it, yeah. So 25, 510. Yes. Yep. Any further discussion? Want a roll call on that, Candy, or you just want a regular vote?
Regular's fine, because I'm in the milk, so I'll just be put on this.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I did have one request for maybe an additional patrol or two on Ramsey 1.
Okay.
They call it Ramsey Speedway.
Yeah, we were out there quite often, trust me.
I know. And I don't know if we need to adjust speed limits on that road. It seems like it changes. It goes past the freeze zone addition and then it increases and then it decreases.
Once you get to the curve at Crafts Corral, it goes back to 25.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if we want to adjust that to the entire road or, but.
Well, that once before, huh?
No, because you'll take 25 and everyone else will drive 40.
Give me a little time and we'll go to work on it. We'll see what we can do first before you have to do that.
I've heard right at that Walleye Drive is kind of a
Yep.
dangerous intersection.
We'll put an emphasis on that stretch.
We need some traffic.
Oh, God, golfers are gonna be mad.
When you take one of
Nah.
when you take one of those bad units out,
Yeah.
would it be possible that I could try to take it out their electronic shop?
Absolutely.
Those phones?
Absolutely. They
I
want to
think
try
that's
it.
something they might be able to do.
It might be something simple. It might,
But it just, because then we have.
yeah, well, I should still have 5 good ones at a minimum. So, but if we can get it fixed, simply, I would love to have it working again.
Sure.
I just don't see how to spend if we want to spend the money on the older stuff at this point and rely on that when we're doing so well with it.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
Have you guys got complaints of our enforcement activities?
Not a word.
Okay.
Just for me.
I got a couple of guys that are hammering hard. I'll slow Mike, because he's got more. Well, actually, they don't do much. Okay.
I don't know how you can complain if you're speeding.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Going to jail.
Stay away from the salt prairie.
Who, the speeders?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks again.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Try to hate.
Brings us up to Mr. Cummings and your budget.
Where do you want me, over here, up there?
There's fine.
This is fine.
Okay, I would say a majority of it is consistent with last year's numbers and the numbers told to put in. There are a few slight increases The first slight increase you'll see is in the technology. We are looking at an option to possibly get some better legal research software. If you were to think of it like Google or Microsoft Bing, some legal search engines give more results and better results to the content you're looking for than others. The reason that number was included there is because that's what it will cost comparative to the quote on the other contract we have. I don't have the firm data as to how much of an increase it is, but the software we're looking at, Westlaw, provides close to 60% better returns than the software we're currently using. So that helps us to add efficiency as we're researching and spend less time having to hunt for stuff and more time getting motions drafted. In addition, if you continue down the budget, I did include 2,500 for capital outlay, bar association fees. Those are all the same. The big change here is I'm asking for 2 additional employees and their salaries. I know that number has a large sticker shock when you look at it like that. However, we recently had our state's attorneys conference down in Bismarck. I talked with several assistant state's attorneys that are out in the market right now. What would you expect to make? What would get you to Devil's Lake? And the number proposed is approximately 75,000. That's a good starting wage for an assistant attorney. And I have the case filing statistics right here. I had our clerk of court run them today. Do you want the good news or the bad news first? Good news is we are working really hard. We're working our tails off. Bad news is the criminals are working just as hard. Through today's date, comparative to last year, felony cases are up 78.87%. Misdemeanors are up 17.71%. And to sheriff's credit, administrative traffic is up 479%.
Wow. For that increase in felonies, is it mostly drug related?
There are a lot of drug related crime. Just speaking anecdotally, we have seen a major increase in what I would call violent crime or victim crimes, where one person is committing a crime against another person, whether that's theft, domestic violence, aggravated assault, burglaries, things like that. Since I've started, I believe we've taken a more aggressive approach to prosecution. I've kind of adopted the Washburn model. Why don't you speed in Washburn? Because you're going to get a ticket. I want the same attitude to happen in Ramsey County. Why don't you traffic drugs in Ramsey County? Because you're going to go to prison. So I think this is a reasonable ask. We are, on the whole, criminal cases, just criminal cases. If you take every line item, and I can provide this, we're up 57% as to where we were last year. I also have a report here from the numbers a month ago. We've seen a 14% growth in 1 month in the amounts of crime happening here.
How does all this compare to 2019? Is it similar? Because I don't know, COVID time caused more crime or less crime, but I imagine it's not quite what you can, whatever it is.
Well, that's a good question. And I do have that. Apparently, I didn't add it here. Crime's up. I know that we saw a lull with COVID. However, I think you're going to see an even greater spike because people are now out and socializing and doing other types of things.
That's kind of out of the norm, because typically you see theft-related and property-related crimes in the summer months, when it's warm outside, domestic violence or violent crime in the winter when people are cooped up together. And right now, all bets are off. I don't want to say it's out of control, because we are doing our best and we are trying to manage it as much as we can. But come by any night after 6 o'clock, you'll see one of my staff's cars here. Come on a Saturday or on a Sunday. We're working all the time, and we just need more help, and that's the bottom line.
Do you have enough room in your office up there?
So that is the second issue related to this. They did have Commissioner Lightline come up and look, because he holds my portfolio. We're kind of sitting ass to ankles as it is right now. We're all together. One possible option for renovation would be to take over the now existing jury rooms and create that into our office space. Another alternative could possibly be the county acquiring the building kitty corner, the Howland Hallbach law firm, and making that into the state's attorney's office. The time has come that we have to find a way to better staff our criminal cases, especially for a county of our size. A comparable would be Jamestown, right? Stutsman County, as far as population, as far as staffing, they beat us in both. Mackenzie County also has better staffing levels with us, and they're roughly the same size. I've talked with both of those states' attorneys, and frankly, they agree with me. You know, what other questions do you have?
I'll just chime in and say that Bo and I sat down and visited about it, and he was concerned about, obviously the large number that we'd be looking at. But I said, I think it's beneficial to put the additions in, simply because, we can always turn back if we have to, but I really think there's a need. I mean, we've been, I shouldn't say chronically understaffed, but we've expected a lot out of the state's attorney's office, I think, in the past many years that I've been on this commission, and it always seems like our caseload here on a per staff basis is higher than probably almost anywhere in the state. and I think, like Bo said, I mean, the number we're seeing from 20 to 21, or even, and I remember I asked the same question that Lucas asked of you from 19 to 21. You showed me those numbers in your office. I remember it. It's up from 19 as well. So, I mean, it just keeps escalating. The more we go out and look for people, with drug task force and everything else, the more people we find, and the more that it's put on that office. So, I mean, to me, it's something we definitely need to look at. It's just time. From the standpoint of the office space, I think the quickest and probably cheapest, but the quickest way is probably, like you said, taking that jury room right next to them. And then the law library portion, we might be able to turn into a jury room or something like that. We could find some additional space somehow. It would be perfect, but it'll be better than that, because we're gonna have to have more space if we have more staff. So we have to know we're going to do a person building improvement costs as well, if we're going to add some additional staff. So, but when you're looking at 57% up for the year, I mean, that seems to be, it hasn't always been 57% up, but since I've been on the commission since 15, every year we have an increase. It seems like every year there's just more and more and more. And part of it's because we're doing more enforcement, but that's good. We're trying to keep the community safe, but it's just a consistent battle, I guess. And we're seeing it in the law enforcement center, though, we're seeing it everywhere.
So this repeat stuff or these all new stuff?
So that's a good question. So the figure is kind of misleading, actually. When it says felony, that does not include cases with multiple felonies. It's just one felony charge. So, for example, here it says there have been 127 felony cases charged. That does not mean there's only 127 felonies. There could be 5, 6, 7 felonies per.
that's just dependents.
Correct.
Oh, okay. So a lot of those cases, there's, maybe that person has 4 felonies charged, and there's probably 4 times the work in charging 4 felonies. I would assume, at least some.
And then the other thing that needs to be addressed, and hopefully it's a rationale to help improve the staffing. We've received a number of unfunded mandates from the state legislature. I'm sure you know all about that. There was a rewrite to the North Dakota Juvenile Court Act, which took a substantial amount of responsibility, shifted it from juvenile court to the state's attorney's office. And it takes time to prepare those documents, serve them, notice people. Additionally, we've seen another unfunded mandate regarding traffic offenses coming from the clerk's office to our office. I think it's only going to continue. The court system is tinkering with who they want to do what, and in the end, it gets shifted to the state's attorney's office. And that's great if you're in a county like Cass or Grand Forks where you have 28 assistant attorneys, but when there's only 2 of you and 2 staff, that gets really tight.
Is there people out there to hire both for these positions?
I hope so. I think so. I think that we can make Ramsey County a very attractive location for young talent. I do. I think if you look broadly at the legal community in Ramsey County, we have seen quite growth actually. The child support attorney came from New York. The new public defender is from Texas. People are looking for jobs and people want to live here. We have a good opportunity to give, right? We have a great recreation lake. People are great. We're easy to work with. The court system is strong here. I think we just got to put it out there.
Well, if we give you this, and this might be more a question for Candy, can we include some money in your budget for renovations?
Absolutely.
That would be Roger.
Would that be right about?
Yeah.
That would be in the building improvement fund, right?
Yeah.
Well, too late to add that if we approve this? So you don't have to blow Roger's budget up.
No, I just don't know.
Do we have to put in doors or anything, or stuff not holding the wall?
You would. That's the way. So the way it's set up right now, there is our office and there's a wall that has 2 single stall restrooms, and they're essentially 2 conference rooms. You would have to punch a hole through to create one continuous suite or office suite. The advantage to taking over the existing jury rooms is that you could directly go into court from your office suite, which is that's a big plus for us. And I think it's very common in other courthouses. I don't know if we have.
Because they probably do the same thing that you're talking.
Yeah, I don't know if we have to.
Well, just to be safe, let's put 25 into Roger's budget. What's in there?
Well, I'm wondering if approving this, given the go-ahead, should we start looking at renovations this year now? And so it's up and operational sooner than later, 2022. And possibly utilizing some of the COVID dollars like we just used for the radar detector for some of this renovation. And because it doesn't sound like we're gonna take a 4-month, 5-month hiatus in criminal prosecution. That we wanna maybe jumpstart this.
Could we, I don't know this answer, are there really no strings with this COVID money?
With the first pot of money?
Yes.
Yeah.
So then
No,
why
it
don't you
is
start the
free
hiring
there.
process now and we pay the rest of the year out of the COVID money and then you'll have it in the budget next year? I mean, because you're already drowning under the caseload.
My thought process, I guess, would be, yeah, we use the COVID dollars to do the renovation. The minute basically we approve the budget in October, you could both go ahead and put, in the meantime, you could put some ideas together in terms of work with Brian and get stuff put together. And then he could start advertising right after we approve the next year's budget in October. And if we get them hired ahead of time, then we use those $400 to pay for it.
Well, but if we approve,
I get what you're
if
saying.
we approve the renovation today, that will be for sure renovated before anybody could be hired.
No, I don't disagree. I'm just saying that
Yeah,
it's kind of, chicken and egg thing, and you're gonna have to get stuff done.
we're gonna,
Let Bull work.
yeah, we're gonna have to work things out with district courts, because I think we're gonna invade some of that space.
So that's a conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's, I agree. That's something we're gonna have to hammer out with them, what we can and cannot do. I mean, it's our building, but at the same time, we still have to be, prudent and talk with them about it, and then we can figure out then, okay, what can we use? And then I think that's when we group Roger in and say, what would it cost to do what we think we need to do, and you can work with Bo on it. But I think it's still reasonable to put dollars, either you use the COVID dollars or because we got that pot of money to use, so we have some dollars we can fund with this year. And then once we get that figured out, then we can go ahead and get home.
I mean, I'll stand on the fact that I still think it'd be fine to use COVID dollars to hire staff, but this, just because there's still some months between now and then that you're behind the 8 ball on.
But you still have a place for that.
Oh, I understand that, but what I mean is if we approve both tonight, right, then you can get a call to a contractor by.
Let's let Roger carry on. Keep the buildings in ground.
But you guys have to.
Let's not get the cart ahead of the horse.
Right.
So
So let's put this.
We should put this into the budget.
On our August meeting for discussion for expansion. And we can have those discussions with district court maybe, and, as far as, and talk with Roger as far as expansion. Yeah, we see a great need here for additional staff. But I think we don't want to get ahead of ourselves and, so.
We could probably work some estimates.
Maybe work some estimates and. If you're not.
Roger involved, yeah.
Get Roger involved,
You bet.
the district court involved.
He does that for us.
Yeah.
The sheriff's budget's going up, what, 250?
Yeah.
This one's gonna end up going, how much? I don't know how to do it.
125.
Law enforcement went up. We're gonna have to face the fact we're gonna have to raise the mill.
There's no question.
These expenses, that's it. Fine, take it up over dollars. But for the long term, we need to raise those mills, or we're gonna get whacked in the head.
Yeah.
2 years down the road.
I don't think there's any question.
Gone.
We've been.
We need to raise the mill, but we need to have the people of Ramsey County understand exactly what law enforcement is costing us now.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
There's no question, I'm trying to load the gun and get some help from the state, and I'll tell them right to your face that we're a hub county, this is costing us a great deal of money, and it's coming off the property owners.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
So, we need to,
we've been at
we
90
need to
mills
budget
for,
it that way.
we've been at 90 mills for quite a while, and if you really look at it back, traditionally, not more than a decade ago, we were at far more than 90 mills. So I think we've had a pretty good run of trying to keep the taxes as low as we can,
Absolutely.
but at the same point, I mean, it's just, we have a lot of pressure from a lot of spots. I mean, I just don't foresee how we're not going to have to go up. I don't want to say substantially, but I think it's gonna be bigger than we want. But
Right.
that's just gonna be what it's gonna be. I mean,
And these costs,
they're
they're
not
not gonna
gonna
be any less like next year.
They're not.
When you look at 23's budget, hope they're not this kind of percentage up, but
That's the frustrating part, is that it's like we're chasing our tail.
absolutely.
I mean, because we're giving the sheriff the resources to do his job, and then we're giving Bull the resources to do their job, his job. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to pick more people up. So then the law enforcement center cost is gonna go up, and then we're just gonna keep doing this. And I'm not saying it's our fault. We have to do what we have to do. But that's where we really need state to step in and help us.
People want to stay, I mean, if people want to, they'll stay.
And that's exactly what all this is about, right? This is all about giving people an opportunity to live in a place where they feel safe, where they feel secure, and it's my opinion that law enforcement is the backbone of the community. It's huge. And I just want to add a few clarifying here. I'm not griping, right? I signed up for this. I want to do this job. I also want people to be proud to live here and feel safe living here.
It didn't take anything of as a gripe. We understand that you have an incredibly busy office, and we need to support it financially through additional employees.
Well, and previous to us hiring you as state's attorney, I think it was pretty evident that Carrie was going to probably be looking at the same exact thing, because she saw the numbers too, so.
She would let us know that.
Yeah, she was kind of laying the groundwork to let us know that we were gonna have
This is
to.
not a control program.
As far as the October timeline, that fits pretty well as well. Typically, the bar exam is at the end of July and they get their results around Labor Day weekend. So you're gonna have a large pool of new lawyers looking for jobs.
The best thing to do is follow the person before they sign with.
When you finalize that budget in October.
And no bad habits. That's another great thing to look for. So,
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if we can have these discussions over the next month between everybody that needs to be involved with it, we can get things rolling faster than that too. And, you know, just have to make sure we loop everybody in. It should be an okay shape.
even if we could grease the skids and kind of get our plan in place, that would be awesome to hit the ground running.
Yeah, like you said, we gotta go visit the courts first.
Absolutely.
The first people we gotta visit with is that. Find out, tell them what we're doing, have Roger there.
But I think, you know, going back to your discussion, I mean, we have to have this long-term discussion, sit down with our legislators, and we have to sit down and talk with you probably more than just our legislators, because, I mean, they're pushing more stuff out of the state's attorney's office. We had at one point in time here, I believe we had drug court.
We have a juvenile drug court. We are still trying to get a adult drug court into place.
They used to have them in multiple locales, and they cut them in the budget a couple sessions ago. We need additional treatment services and help with that. I mean, we need so many more resources than what we're receiving at this point. And I'd like to see more on the treatment side of things, obviously, so we're not running this tail. But
I agree.
But I don't know how we get the state, I mean, the state's, I think, moving in the right direction, but very, very, very slowly.
Yep. So,
any other question about any of the changes I put up there?
no, thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Kevin?
Thanks. This would be a good time to tell us about all that gold you found buried under.
Did you find some money for it under
Well, we start with the budget first. Okay. Page, I guess 23. That's the blacktop one, right? Okay, included in that work are $1 million. We have the Finland Doorway project on Ramsey 3 South Hamden, including the engineering and the construction, and also the bridge that we're replacing on Ramsey County Ford just south of Highway 17. The construction engineering and the bridge paid for the bridge project itself. So that's where that $1 million goes. Next page is County Road. Salaries, of course, that was a spreadsheet that was handed out. Capital outlay, 200,000. That includes our, I included a new pickup in there. Rental for like our mower tractors, skid steer, that type of stuff. construction. Well, also, a big part of that capital outlay is on the culverts, buying culverts and then resale, on which the flow through on the budget, but that's the line item that comes out. On the construction side, we are scheduled to gravel Ramsey County 10 for 4 miles. That big grade raise, we don't have to gravel that every year, it's really got good gravel on it, so it's about a 11 or 12 mile road, but we'll only do 4 miles that weren't in the grade raise. Also, we're gonna gravel Prairie Road north of Prairie. Ramsey County 4, south of Doyen or south of US 2. And then I put it in the budget to gravel the Ramsey Benson line south of Church's Ferry, depending on what the lake does there. This summer, we knocked all the trees down, killed all the trees, killed all the cattails, tilled it up, and John's blading it now, is trying to bring it back into shape. And then we'll see what the water does and possibly gravel it next summer. That thought is all in the construction part.
That was which road did you say?
South of Church's Ferry.
Oh, yeah,
Also, the mag waters in the construction, repair our soft spots like we do with cement, and then overlay patches on the pavement. Then every year, on the miscellaneous, that's just for projects that I don't know about that come up during the year. So that's the total, $847,127.
Maybe we can get all that done for that little bit of money.
Okay, the next page is, we don't do that. The bridges, I think we're doing three bridges next year. So I put in for the rental of the excavator and packer and also the cost of the culverts. And then on the construction line, that is for inspecting our bridges, to have an engineer do an inspection on our bridges every year. We actually haven't been billed for that yet, so I'm estimating what that's costing, but that's what I put in. We have 1 year where they do a lot of our bridges, 1 year where they do only a few, and this 10,000 is the year that they only do a few. So any questions there? I think after this year, we're pretty well caught up on this bridge removal stuff, so that was significantly change next year. Okay. Next page is highway tax. This is the one that money is generated from fuel tax sales, gasoline and fuel. First line again is the wages for all the road guys. Overtime is in there, 35,000. Fixed charges, of course, for health insurance. Unemployment, that's for, we have to pay for somebody that's getting the unemployment benefit. We haven't had to do that for a couple of years. I keep it in there because we never know what's gonna happen. Insurance includes our vehicle insurance, our building insurance, our workers' comp, and drug and alcohol testing. So that went down a little bit. The next item is travel, which I kept the same. Utilities includes our electricity and our phone and our heat, water, garbage, that type of thing. Down a little. The next one is office supplies. That's also down just a little bit. I reduced the, office supplies cost. Gas, oil, and fuel, of course, that's kind of a guessing game, but I lowered it a little bit. I don't know if that's the thing to do. You don't know what prices are going to do. Supplies and materials, that includes like all of our gravel for spot graveling, sand, riprap, cutting edges, snow blades, filters, tires, road oil, all that type of stuff. Repairs and maintenance, that's repairs to and maintenance to the equipment. I did lower that a little bit because we'll have new blades again, so less repairs. Capital outlay, that's a huge increase because we're looking at buying 3 new water graders, which will be about $875,000. And then another $25,000 for building repairs. Any questions there? Going through this pretty fast, so if you see something like County Road Program, on the next page, that is our chip seal program. We plan on chip sealing Ramsey County 4B, which would be in that Edmore area, and 8C, which goes through Lawton. And that also includes the cost of the chips and any striping that we do on the roads. Any questions there? Then the other last page I have is just all of the FEMA pages. And I just threw numbers in there. We're allowed to use these dollars for anything that we need. I mean, it wasn't identified for any certain thing. It was that ad bid money is what it was. But they don't specify what we can and cannot use it for. So it's kind of a buffer for us more than anything. Any questions? I went through that real fast.
That fuel one you're all right on?
I think so, yeah. I think if the worst came to worst, I could probably use another line item to supplement that grant.
You got more options than I do.
It's such a crapshoot on fuel, it's terrible.
Well, yeah, it goes up and down depending on how much we, like the winter costs were so low this last year, so the number looks really good. Well, because we're running it.
Yeah.
The rates are sitting, so.
Depends on how much snow removal they have. I mean, it's just so many.
Depends on how much work you do.
Biggest ticket item is the overlay project in Hamden and the bridge construction. I don't think we want to try and cancel our bridge project. Those are hard to get through the state system. But, so we want to keep that in the budget if we can. That amounts to $150,000 for the engineering and what our share of the, there's some federal dollars there too, that would be our share, about $150,000.
Where's that bridge you want to show?
Just south of Doug Fridgie.
Or right on 4.
Yeah.
One we're putting boxes in, correct?
Right.
Yeah, that needs to be done.
Yeah, it's,
So we gotta keep
it meets the criteria for the grading on it, it's down to the 50s, which is, I think once it gets below 50, that's when they're really critical.
That cleanup, that's bottom line. Yeah. If we let it go, it might be 2 years before we get queued up again.
Exactly. The waiting list is so long.
Get it done.
So that's kind of where we stand with which projects we should keep and which we can look Any other questions?
Do you have any concerns moving forward with, that levy that's coming off in the state?
Yeah, that's something we definitely need to keep an eye on. It's probably 3 years out yet, so yeah, I mean, we don't wanna forget about that.
So,
I'll look at this last one. I honestly don't know.
I think so.
I think they included it as part of their home rule charters.
We did a home rule charter to include that, increase in there.
Something we definitely need to look at, because we got all of our chip seal is on that app. Our chip seal program will go away in 25, unless we do something. But man, we don't wanna stop that. I mean, you can see in the last 20 years how that has really benefited our roads.
Yeah, I think, you know, we're gonna have to look and see how many other counties around us are looking for it in the not 22 or 24, and then we'll have to make a determination if we're gonna slide it and do it. We're gonna have to ask for it in one of those elections, and then go and make sales.
What, it sunsets in 24, so we'd have to put it in on 25?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so if you can pass it, I mean, preferably, at least in my opinion, you wanna ask for it in 22. Because if you wait until November of 24 to ask for it, I guess you can do it in the primary election possibly, because that's the general election. Yeah, so, yeah, that's after you budgeted for the 25 year already, so how are you gonna budget off of it, not knowing?
But then you also have the county agents mills as well.
Yeah.
That are
Yeah,
at the
but that
same
up
time.
too.
Yeah.
Plus, you know, the cities in the same boat, I don't know, park districts, a whole lot of people are, well, you guys heard the explanation that, you know, everybody's gonna be going through the same. Voting process.
It's gonna turn into it's gonna turn into a slugfest about who can justify, and they're probably gonna run into it possibly, like Terry Trainer said, is if you put 4 of them on the ballot, are they just all gonna get no?
Yeah.
So we're almost gonna have to work with our other local entities at the same time and say, what are you gonna have to look for, and where does funding have to come from, and then we'll have to try to figure out what to do. It's gonna be interesting.
Like you said, Kevin, that chip sealing, I mean, old enough to remember that never used to do it.
No.
You know, when they paved the road, they just lay there for what?
20 years?
Yeah. Do nothing. Well, I'm pretty sure it just falling apart.
Yeah.
Now with the chip sealing, you kind of recoat it and kind of keep it sealed up so the moisture don't get in there and.
It's gotta be.
And the materials they use in the chip sealing now,
Yeah,
it's very much better than it was 5 years ago, 20 years ago.
Virtually no potholes and nice smooth ride, I mean, it just makes a world of difference.
Yeah, it just stays the road for days.
What you can do it with local funds too is the most efficient way you can.
Yeah, if we had to bid this to a federal program, it'd be twice the cost.
So, okay. Thank you.
Yes.
I go to your regular.
Yes. Paper patches, all of our projects, we'll go through those first. Nothing changed there, but kept it on the list. Painting stripes, and did get our yellow stripes painted. They're having a hard time finding, they're getting white paint like they should. You can still get it, but it's hard to find, so they have not got the white stripes painted yet, but by getting the yellow ones done, we were able to take our signs down. So if you hear questions on that, we're still waiting for the contractor to do the white ones. Bridge removals, the guys got 2 of them done. We've just got 1 more left that we're gonna tear out and put culverts in, but we are tearing out 2 more other ones that you guys probably know. So that's going good. We should have that done about a month from now. We should be done completely with those. And that culvert on Ramsey County 3 that we slip lined, they finally did get the grout stuck into the middle, in between them, so that project is complete now
Kevin, does that reduce the flow in those culverts?
No, it increases them
Increases it?
like 150% or something.
You know, people had asked that question and I'm like, because they think that it's a smaller diameter.
It is a smaller diameter.
Yeah, but it's smooth.
It's completely smooth, so the water goes past there.
Smooth versus corrugated, it's huge.
The box quickens that up so much, that poly versus steel.
Do you have is there problems then on the other side with,
Not yet. I've been watching, I mean, somebody is dumping their rocks in the field there too, which is helping.
So, keep doing it.
You know?
For your breath.
Yeah.
I guess we ride battles,
okay? Thank you.
Okay, then we had to change the size on that bridge, north of Lawson Jones, that was 3 36-inch culverts before, now the water board has bumped it, or 2 36-inch. The water board bumped it up to 2 72 inches because of the upstream size is on a county road, which is right now at 3 72 inches. But the difference between a county and a township road, 2 is sufficient, so. And then the landowners have agreed to put a third one in, and they're gonna pay for that themselves. But the cost of the culvert is gonna be $25,461, which we'll have to pay and then bill the local landowners, so. I guess I'd like a motion to pay that $25,461.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, pay the 25,461 for culverts.
I guess I don't have the bill yet, I should straighten that out, just to get them ordered.
Right, just get them ordered, right, yeah. Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, and continue.
The second one, we did get an invoice from Soapers for gravel and turn back 17 by Stark Brother, and that total was $63,800. And this motion would be to pay that invoice.
So we have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and second to pay Soapers for $63,800. Roll call, please.
Wakefield.
Aye.
Lightcon.
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Fred.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, KLJ has gotten the task force together, the contract for the preliminary design and engineering on the bridge replacement on 4B. It's actually an amendment to the first tax order, but the amendment adds another 43,700 original cost. So for a total of 56,600. And I guess I need a motion for the chairman to sign that. I've looked at it, I reviewed it, it looks clear to me. I don't know, Paul, if you got anything you want to add to that?
Just the first part was just to do the survey and hydraulic study on it, and this is to do the rest of the design. Now we know what we're designing. So it's quite a bit less than, it'd probably be almost double that if it was a bridge, since box culverts would be some of the design of the suppliers.
So you were waiting to see what we were gonna put in before we finished the task order.
Right, that way we don't have a contract double that size for half the work.
Okay, I'll make a motion to the amendment to the task order.
We have a motion and a second to approve the task order and having the chairman sign that. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And then next one, just for your information, I signed up Jason for the leadership training through that NACO program. He'll be starting on September 13th. That cost is $1,645, which is less than $2,000, but I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it. Then I have 2 other things. I needed to order a load of road oil to fill our overhead tank. And get it filled, the cost is gonna be around $17,000 on oil. So I make a motion to go ahead and order that. So move.
Motion and a second to approve the Kevin order and load oil. Load oil. All right. Any further discussion? Or there was a motion and a second, correct? Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And the last thing I have, I need to order some more cutting edges for roller graders. This time the approximate cost will be $9,338.
$9,038.
93.38.
Okay. Motion second to approve cutting edges, 93.38. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That's all I have, unless you have something for me.
That's enough.
Do you have the task order?
Oh, yeah. I got one. Yes, sir.
Back page, look at this all.
You have that, sign it?
Not to lose.
I sent them a couple copies when you didn't have some of these board marks.
All right. Next up, Mr. Breckner.
Well, I happened to run into Ed, Ed here, and he asked me to return to your commission and an update and review of the Aquatic Nuisance Partnership Program. So I brought the program copies back again in case you don't have them. Nothing has changed. The Game and Fish has not changed their program. Program range remains the same. To give you an update on where the state is this year, as most of you have already heard, that Game and Fish found zebra mussels at Twin Lakes. They have also run into some severe issues in a couple places on the Missouri River system with curly pond leaf weed. And what's happened there is they've taken over some of the marinas and boat ramps, because obviously when you dump a boat in, if you have curly pond leaf on your boat, it falls off there and that plant just takes over. And I have some photographs to show you on that as well. In the case of Ashtabula, as you know, they were identified having zebra mussels, and the Game and Fish has taken an aggressive approach to Ashtabula. They're monitoring all the boats going in and out, mostly out, because they don't want that zebra mussel to be picked up on a boat or pontoon or jet ski or whatever. And they've continued to do an aggressive approach in there. This is a quick report here on from Ben, the director from A&S. This is as of July 12th, the inspections that they have done in the Devil's Lake area. Okay, they've done approximately 1,342 inspections. Now the key here is to take a look at where all these boats are from. Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Iowa,
Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, North Dakota, of course, Nebraska, South Dakota, Texas, Washington, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. So basically, watercraft in our area of Devil's Lake is covered from coast to coast. And these are only the boats that they have had the opportunity to inspect. So if you were to take a look at Devil's Lake and the activity going down Highway 2 or coming in Devil's Lake, this probably represents about 10% of the boats and activity that's been coming here for recreation. They go down to identify that approximately 45% is non-resident activity on our lake. I think that's a little bit low. Items that they found, 3% had vegetation on them, 2% have had water retained in the boat, either in live well or in ballast areas. Zebra mussels fouled boats. They had 6 leaving Ashtabula that they identified, 1 entering Lake Audubon. And you probably saw this recently. It was in the Bismarck paper, another paper, where it was a pontoon that was purchased out of state, brought to North Dakota, and they were going to go fishing or going recreating on Lake Audubon. And that unit was caught before we put in the lake, having zebra mussels on. And fortunately, they caught it. The other fortunate part is that the zebra mussels were all dead. So they dodged a bullet, or the state dodged a bullet, however you want to look at it. Again, then they identify the Twin Lakes infestation, which takes place. To give you an update on Ashtabula, this is a picture of an intake. In other words, someone who has a intake system on the lake. And it's a little hard to view, but if you look right at it, you can see looks like little diamond squares there. That's a pipe. And those are, everything else is zebra mussels that are covering that intake on that. So if you were to take a look at the intake in the east end of Devil's Lake, that clogged system would look similar to this if we had zebra mussels. We'd just simply plug it up. And that's what's happened here, is this intake system here has been clogged by the zebra mussels. I believe, I don't have the numbers with me, and I can't remember, it's approximately the survey they did, that there were 62,000 zebra mussels per square meter. So in other words, an area of 9 by 9 or whatever, 9 feet a meter, 62,000 adult zebra mussels per meter in Lake Ashtabula today. So the infestation is huge. I earlier mentioned curly pond leafweed. This is a photograph of a boat ramp and a marina in the Missouri River system. And this is how any boat ramp in Devil's Lake or on Devil's Lake or Stump Lake would look if we got zebra mussel, or got the curly pond leafweed. The second page shows you how it spreads. This basically floats, it becomes a mat on the water and makes it virtually impossible for, you can't canoe through it, you can't boat through it, you can't do anything. And the marina here, this marina is looking at purchasing a harvester machine similar to what you see out here on the lemon plant to harvest that vegetation, and that machine alone costs over $50,000, just the machine, not to operate it, not to maintain it.
Where is that?
That's on the Missouri River system.
Is this dam?
No, that's just a boat ramp, a marina. Yeah. When we talk about zebra mussels, or when we talk about invasive species, and we talk about our area, our community, we identify what's at risk here, and it really isn't the fishermen that's at risk, not the sportsmen. It's Ramsey County that's at risk. It's tourism. It's John Q. Public who is at risk. The fishermen can pack up and I can drive to another lake and go fishing. There's no loss to me if zebra mussels or these things come in Devil's Lake. There's more cost to me, but there's really no loss to me as a sportsman to go fishing. I can find another lake to go fishing on. But if we get infestation, whether it's curly pond weed or zebra mussels or one of many other ones, Eurasian milfoil, Ramsey County is huge at risk because of your tax base is going to eventually drop because people are going to move.
Should we, as a county, direct our law enforcement, stopping boats coming in? What would you like us to do, Rich?
Personally, what I would like to see you do is go back to our original conversation with Nelson County and Benson County. You three join forces to make a effort to protect the lake regions of Ramsey County, Nelson, and Benson. And I believe you're going to have to bring in your local legislators, because as we discussed before, there's only so much money Game and Fish has, and it's not enough. But there's no money here from tourism to help you with this process, and they're at a big risk. There's no money here from the highway department, yet they collect gas tax out of every boat that recreates on Devil's Lake, and that money doesn't come back. So it's a real big, huge challenge. And I don't think it should be taken on based on the size of our resources here, that one county can do it by itself.
No, absolutely not. We had Dan Holing come down to our one conference last week, and the guy dropped whatever he had going on and came in, spoke to us. He probably would have spoke to us for 3 hours if we let him. He's extremely passionate, dedicated to the prevention of this. Where's he from? He's out of Jamestown. He's Game and Fish. He's the AMS coordinator. But he agrees with Rich that it has to be a much larger, and we agree with him from the water standpoint, that it has to be a much larger than just the Game and Fish. And whether it starts locally with the county commission, whether it starts with the city commission, but it has to be a statewide effort to prevent aquatic cruising. Because it's coming from outside our borders, right, is where it's coming. And people want to say that, well, it's not outside recreators, tourism that's bringing it in. It could be one of us. It could be somebody from Devil's Lake taking their boat for the day or two to Minnesota, to an infested body of water, and bringing it back. And I'm not sure exactly how you stop it. A lot of states have, Montana, for instance. You go into Montana with a boat, you're being stopped. You have to pull over and be inspected.
And more than once.
And more than once, more than likely. I think the last study that ANS committee has done or seen from that, it cost the state of North Dakota about $10 million to implement.
Yeah.
And that's
cost the state $10 million and they didn't get it implemented?
No. The Game and Fish doesn't have that, and there's no other body. I mean, earlier this year.
What are you gonna blame? You go fishing all the time. I want your opinion.
I think it's gonna be a problem.
Oh, there's no question, but how are we gonna address it? I mean, geez.
Well, you're gonna need to bring your legislators in because more money is gonna be needed. I mean, a perfect example is what happened this spring with a sponge I can't remember the name of it, but that people were using
Moss
in their.
balls.
Moss, yeah, that they were using in their aquariums. Okay, Now-
Being manufactured and sold out of the Ukraine, where zebra mussels originated from, getting into the United States, being sold in pet stores to aquarium owners. And once they clean out their aquarium, whether they dump it down their toilet or throw it out in their yard down the wastewater drain, it creates problems.
But here's the problem on the state level. This is not a game and fish problem. It's the agriculture people who are in charge of protecting the state from that sponge. Now, when you talk to the Agriculture Commission and the Agriculture Group, they're gonna say, no, zebra mussels and aquatic nuisances are a fisheries problem, that's not our problem. But here's proof that this is part of agriculture.
I know when you go to Fort Peck, you pull on a stake, you can't even put it in the water until you're inspected and tagged.
Yeah.
And then they put this hard tag on your boat. And if you get caught without that, it's huge fine. So they cut you, like, I don't know, last time we were there, we drove 300 miles just to get inspected because there's only one station.
What do they put this sponge you talked about into a aquarium?
It's an aquarium.
It's sold by the pet shop.
So I have agricultural problem, they're doing that. I don't
Oh, it is,
follow
it's just
that.
like vegetation that comes in, you bring a plant in from Hawaii, that's an agriculture thing.
It's an
So it's-
invasive plant.
Because
falls under
it's
agriculture.
structured over there in Century, built the agriculture department, in charge of invasive plants.
There's a whole bunch of damn arguing going on down there, nobody wants to take responsibility.
Yeah,
Nobody
that's
wants to-
exactly what's happening. They're all punting on it.
Kick
That's
it
what
back
they're
up
doing.
there, yeah.
And then they're telling us they figure out how to figure
This,
it out.
this is really, you look at this, and this is.
That's scary.
That's it.
Yeah,
But-
that's on Missouri River
but-
system in
but-
several
Where's the
spots.
cows that eat that? It's probably hard.
But it's gonna end up costing every citizen in the state of North Dakota dollars down the line, because it affects how utilities are operated and so on.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you.
with you.
Yeah, let's get a solution.
Yeah.
I don't want any more scared tactics. Let's get a solution.
Well, like I say, it's going to task you to contact your legislators. And the reason I say 3 counties is because Ramsey County is small when you compare it to Grand Forks County and Cass County and Burley County and so on. If you want to make an impression and get ahead of the rest of the state, I believe 3 counties are gonna have a bigger voice because you got more voters.
Look at 30, then you'd have a big voice.
Well, you would. I
There
agree.
are 30 counties in this state that are affected by this. So you take action, you know how many counties around that? 3?
Well, there's gotta be at least 30 counties.
Well, you got
Let's put
400
out a
recreation
flyer.
lakes.
Let's get something going countywide then. Let's get the Association of Counties involved with us. And have them notify the counties that have this problem and are affected by it. I mean, we pay dollars to them all the time to help us through some of these situations. And that's exactly what we need help with. What do you
like I
think,
said
Kevin?
before,
You've been on the board. Does that make sense or not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely makes sense, yeah.
But I mean, we
it's
can,
not easy stuff.
you got Barnes and you got, Griggs must be on Ashtabula and.
Whole Missouri River system.
Well, I mean, you know, it affects the entire state, and so, but like Rich had said, it's not just game and fish. It's tourism, it's economic development.
Yep.
Where
It's energy.
those people at, it's energy, and it is Department of Ag.
I'll be all for it, if we can get somebody to help lead the counties. Not Ramsey County, I don't think we can handle it.
That's our fight on that.
I'll jump in, if some other counties were gonna jump in, and we can get something started. I mean, just for one county to take care of Devil's Lake, that's not gonna happen. It's way too expensive for us, but we're sure we can be part of the solution, but let's not be the whole solution.
No, education, because already done to educating kids in school, to start this at a school level to educate everybody.
Absolutely.
I mean, this gentleman who bought that pontoon in Minnesota and it came to North Dakota, if you looked at that pontoon, I would recognize zebra mussels the same as you, that were attached there. He had no clue. He was not aware. So, like I said, I'm just
I know.
an individual who's concerned, and I wanna help. But I think the bigger thing for me, I already sit on the A&S committee. And going around pitching this, because this is a community I love and I wanna live here.
Yeah.
So I'll do whatever I can do, but I think it's, like I said, it's up to you guys here to protect Ramsey County and the lake. And you can bring the city in, you can bring Nelson County in and Benson County in. But again, you're gonna have to bring your legislators in, because this has to be driven from the legislative end. You know, even if you do a referendum or a mandatory situation where every vote entering your county requires an inspection, that has to go through the legislation process as well, in order to be able to put that into effect.
So, Rich, have you ever looked at like how Fort Peck is doing it? How did they get it so that they have it with mandatory?
Great question.
Yeah,
We need to find out.
Montana.
It's mandatory.
Yeah, Montana had, I think they got somewhere between 10 and 12 million dollars, and a lot of it came from their power plants. A lot of the money came from power plants. A lot came from agriculture and other entities. They all, I think the governor probably drove it home.
Let's find out for sure.
But
We got a plan, then we can sell the plan to whoever we need to sell it to.
well,
Let's get a plan.
your legislators are the ones who can help carry this ball for you, because it's bigger than this commission.
It's bigger than the 3 commissions you're talking about.
Yes, it is. So when you've been ramrodding this A&S committee, have they ever went out there and tried to find out how Peck did it?
No, not even the state game and fish. They're all, how shall we say, they're all protective of their departments. And no one's going to come in and tell them.
Which is silly. It's silly not to help each other.
It is. Montana will be the first to tell you, what the hell North Dakota's sitting there doing nothing. When we have this plan in place
Send
already.
us their information on how they get it out there.
Montana has, Wyoming has it too. You can't cross the border into Wyoming.
Colorado, Washington, Idaho, I mean, all the way out to the west coast. I mean, every state has them in place. We know about them. We know how they're working them. We're just not willing to take the steps to implement them and enforce them.
There's no single department willing to take it on. It's a
Right.
state government issue, really.
It comes down to dollars and mandate.
Yep.
They don't want to enforce a mandate because it doesn't look good to enforce a mandate, it costs money to do it. It's that simple.
They already paid $10 million.
No,
Well,
that,
it will cost $10 million.
no, that's what it would cost if we implement a general
Program.
for every boat coming into the state.
And I don't have a problem with working with the legislators, but to me, it just, we're gonna be fighting with the state for years to get something to go.
We had fights 2 years ago at the legislature when we got the A&S sticker implemented. And we're seeing about $1.5 million fees from that are generated.
Yeah, that's a good start.
It's a good start, but it's not being spent. But that was a fight getting that implemented from a lot of the entities that we talked about, within our own state. And it's gonna end up hurting everybody in the state sooner or later.
Yeah, I mean, DOT collects about $1 million in a biennium from the tax that people put through their boats. And $1 million that they put in some bridge someplace else.
Well, I mean, we can all agree here on like how bad this is.
Right.
Are there any actionables that this commission can leave here tonight with, specific things that we can do? Because otherwise we'll just keep sitting here and talk about how bad it is.
Well, I think maybe one of the things that we could do is maybe ask the governor for a meeting with, somebody from Sports Fishing Congress, somebody from, Terry Fleck down at Friends of Skakawea. Just a sit down, and I think declaring an A&S emergency within the state would go a long, long
we got him to declare A&S Awareness Week.
Right.
It was very weak presentation as far as statewide, but there were other entities who supported it. It was a start. Yes.
Locally speaking, what are the three, I mean, you don't keep count, but what are the three most used boat ramps?
Oh.
There's the main one into Stump Lake out of the park, correct? That's probably used the most on the Stump Lake side.
Greg's Island is probably the number one.
Greg's Island is probably number one, and I think they've done some enhancements there, but, I think they got one of those magnetic ionizers that'll talk to you.
Yes.
As you're backing in a boat or pulling a boat out. They have one at Lake Ashtabula that says, you are now entering a level 1, or level 5 category, infested body of water. You will need to disinfect when you leave. Yeah. And so it talks to you.
I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of working with the legislators is a long-term play.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do something short-term, maybe we talk with Nelson and Benson County and say, each of us is willing to put in one of these stations that's funded by the Game and Fish. What's the best locales?
Yeah.
Let's agree on 3 locales, 1 in each county, and then let's figure out how to fund them locally. Whether it's the city and us together or whatever, we pony up a total dollar figure and we figure out how to fund them. And then we work with the state to say, work with our legislators to say, you need to include some money in the budget to at least pony up to pay for these things. On an operating budget, and then we work on the full statewide thing going forward. But if we want to, I mean, we're gonna have to lead the charge locally if we're gonna do it.
Right, you're gonna have to sign a contract and agreement in order to get other people to buy in. If you haven't bought in by signing the agreement, no one else is gonna buy in with you.
I mean, we're gonna have to try to lead, I guess, but, I mean, the problem we come back to is what is it gonna cost us locally to run the thing? Because we don't have a clue and what's the best place to put it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Let me work on it, I'll try to work on it. I don't guarantee anything will happen, but I'll try to work on it.
Rich, anything else?
No, that's all I have. Like I said, I'm here in Devils Lake. I sit on the A&S committee. If someone needs some help or has questions and wants me to do things, I'm more than willing to.
See Candy afterwards, she'll sign a check. Well, we wish it was that easy. We could just throw money at it and make it go away. But I think it's gonna take an effort. We apply your commitment to it. Twin Lakes is down in Lemoore County.
Yep.
So it's within that Lemoore plot. Lemoore had, dam had the outbreak a year ago. And so it's kind of a matter of time because a lot of fishermen frequent both bodies of water regularly, back and forth.
And that's what we worry about here. I mean, people could be on Ashtabula yesterday and be on Devils Lake today.
Or on the Red River today and Stump Lake this afternoon. You know, so, yeah, again, we applaud your efforts, Rich, and thank you for coming in and
Thank you.
keeping our feet to the fire.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Have a good day. You too.
Mr. Chairman, I saw we had a guest come in here. She was supposed to be on at 5 o'clock. There's a miscommunication about time. I was wondering if she could slip in before me.
Absolutely.
I'll make it very quick. I did not hear from Sarah today that our time was different, and when I put it on my calendar, it was scheduled for 7. So I don't really know what happened, but anyway, so I was really early, and I've been in town this whole time. And I came straight from Carrington, so I'll stand back, because I was at field day today. It was smell bad. I've been all over the Carrington Research Center. So, anyway, thanks for giving me a minute. I'm sure you know what I'm here about, seeing as Sarah's probably already talked about the subject of Bill Hodis's position, and that's great, but I can't do anything until I actually come here and have the official word. So if you would have put me off, I would have had to make another trip. So thank you very much. Just so you all know, we will finish paying Bill Hodis for his employment at the end of this month. The way NDSU works is we work a full month before we already get a paycheck. You guys know how that works. So he won't be finished being paid out until the end of the month. So technically, we can't put an order or a request in to open his position until it's paid out and he's officially off our books. So, the earliest we would start anything would be,
July 1 or August 1?
August. Beginning of August is about as early as I can go, and, once he's paid out, I have to do the paperwork that goes to Dr. Lardy that requests that, we just open the position. So, you know, we're in DSU extension and we have a slow process. I think you guys know that, right? It's a little slow. I promise we'll try not to drag it too far. It has to be open for 20 business days. Once we, have the actual job or position description, I need to be reminded though, who, Adam,
I'm on the
right?
commission, or on the portfolio.
Oh, Adam, I got it right this time. Oh, after the retirement thing, I thought, well, we're gonna get you wrong again. I just need to communicate with you, and I need to know that the rest of the commission is okay with that, and that you will be my go-to as far as review the position description. I can tell you, so you're not surprised, the one thing that will look different in the new position description is, Bill had some responsibility at the state level for something called SARE, the Sustainable Ag Research Extension. If you remember that, he worked with the 94 land grant universities, and we are not going to make that part of this position. That was really above and beyond his, and he was, you know, compensated for that. We just want to explore other people in the state. We wouldn't want to assume that whoever we hire has to fit the bill on that responsibility. It'll be a straight up, we have a pretty standard A&R position description we'll work from. And if you would consider putting together a couple people that you have in mind to serve on the committee, I would recommend, somebody from your 4-H Leaders Council, or I'm quite sure Sarah and Cindy. We'll just start putting together a committee. Yeah, and that's where we are, and I'll answer any questions that you might have about the position.
And earlier at today's meeting, we did, Sarah come in and talk about her budget, and we did go ahead and made a motion and approved, asking NDSU and supporting NDSU in the search for another ag extension agent within Ramsey County, or for Ramsey County.
Okay, thanks. I really appreciate that. Now, I don't know how long all of you have been on the board, but you remember a few years ago, we adjusted our base policy and you kicked in more of, but we're back to the original. So anybody have questions about our base policy and who's paying what? Okay, good. All right. We will not hire somebody, I can pretty much assure you, at the salary that Bill is leaving. I'm guessing you'll expect that, right?
And that's fine. We understand that, you know, adjustments will need to be made, and, you know, Adam will keep us informed, and I had that portfolio for previous years, so.
Okay.
Fully appreciate that office and everything that they do for us, and willing to support them moving forward.
Good. I'm gonna work really hard to find you some good candidates to interview. So thank you. That's all I need. Just that official word, so that once I get the go ahead, then we'll move on it and I'll be in touch with you.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Cummings, you're back.
Well, it's always a good day when I get to talk twice.
Yeah. We have a park board property, that was brought up last meeting, and we have you do that.
Yeah, this was a welcome change of pace for me. Kind of nice to stretch those property law muscles. Essentially, what happened was, in the 30s, the county of Ramsey deeded some property to the park board. And as a part of that deed, we kept an interest or a reversion. If they ever sold it or tried to parcel it off or get rid of it, it comes back to Ramsey County. The park district has been approached by a buyer that wants to buy this piece of property, but they can't move forward with it until we give them our reversion. The bottom line is, it is not worth our time and effort to try and get this property back and go through the sale. is valued at $750. This person wants to spend no more than $1,000. I can guarantee you between title searches, real estate, all of that, you're gonna be well over that mark. So it's better for the county in this instance to cut our loss, deed it to Park District, and let them deal with it. That's my legal opinion for you.
I'll make the motion that we do what he said.
So I guess the motion I'm asking for is first a vote that we're okay giving the Park District this deed, and then secondly for Jeff to sign it. Because he's the chairman.
Yep.
Would you want that in one part or two parts?
Would you like two motions or one?
One's probably easier.
One's probably easier.
Do it all the way.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go ahead with what Bo said.
Yep. I'll watch the tape.
Put that in.
Yeah, I'll watch the tape.
I guarantee nobody that started watching this is still watching. There's probably nobody online right now.
So I want to thank Bo for the time and the commitment that he put into this. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business, we have a motion to invest federal COVID relief money. Creating an account for that is kind of a procedure that I've noticed throughout the state with other counties. So we just need a motion to go ahead and set that up.
So are we gonna, this is going to just be, is it gonna be set up structured like we were talking with Robert previously, or correct?
Well, I think it's structured into a separate account. Totally separate, and we can put it into an interest-bearing account, and the interest can be spent any way we
So
want.
we can derive interest off of that, and we got the first payment of 1.185 or something.
Yeah.
So we'll just be able to derive interest out and use it. I'll make a motion that we allow, the auditor and the treasurer to work together again.
Yeah. Motion and a second to go ahead and set up an investment account for the federal COVID relief money. Any further discussion?
Anytime we can invest somebody else's money and make interest on it, it's all good.
They wanted to know everything about my blood type.
Yeah.
What's your blood type?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New item on the agenda, which was added later today or earlier today. I guess we've been at this for 3 hours. So. Environmental review for activity project that exempt for categorically exclude, not subject to section 58.5.
Why do we have to have an environmental review for putting in a 911 electronic system?
It's part of
Part of the grant,
Part of the grant.
CBDG.
Well, I'll make a motion that,
I'll second.
You want the answer to sign?
They wouldn't do that.
Well, let's just sign the thing, because we need to get it done.
Any, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Visitors and delegations, please all rise at once. Thank you all for attending. Announcements, we have a county tour. The president's tour is tomorrow, 3 p.m. in the basement meeting room.
It's changed to the historic room.
It's changed to the historical room. Okay,
How long are we anticipating that to be? Some curiosity.
an hour to 2. I think what they put an hour on.
2 hours.
2 hours.
I'll have to jet out if we have a,
Yeah.
social services speed
So, and I will be, Candy and I will both be gone for that. So,
Gone to the basement or?
no, I'll be in Bismarck tomorrow. Yeah.
The
Lucas,
rest of us gotta do it. Kevin, you're in charge?
I'll be there.
So,
I'm on my way to state baseball, so.
so,
You got baseball?
But yeah, department heads are all aware, email's been sent out, everybody, spit shine and wear their Sunday best.
You don't have to do that.
No. So, but anyway, the group from the Association of Counties, will be here, tomorrow at 3. Please welcome them on behalf of Ramsey County.
I did give Roger in charge of coffee and cookies for them.
Perfect. Other announcements?
Yeah, I've got for the employee appreciation half day on Friday. I've got all the food pretty much arranged. I still need to go and get desserts. So I think I'm doing cookies. But all of that's taken care of. If anyone has any lawn games or anything that they'd like to bring, that you're gonna be there, that would be appreciated. And I'd like for there to be a good picture of as many county employees as possible, because I don't think the county's ever done that. It'd be nice to have a picture with everybody. So,
Lucas and I talked about it yesterday.
10:30,
we're gonna show up to set up, and then we'll probably start cooking it. I don't know,
11.
Make sure we don't 10.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Brian said he was gonna help show up and help. We're gonna have 4 grills between us. So that should be plenty, and a roaster to keep everything warm. So we'll cook stuff more and put burgers and brats.
We're gonna do it at the big shelter at Roosevelt Park.
Yeah. Yeah, next to the baseball line, on that side.
Memorial Building is back up. Trains.
Yeah. Is there rain in the forecast? I don't know.
No, the rain.
We got it.
We got the rain.
Okay.
We're all rain till next year.
Sure. Well, yeah, if you wanna show up.
You wanna come right across, you can go right there.
Absolutely, of course. Yeah.
Gotta eat first one.
But yeah, well, because of the way that the box is counted, I've got 120 quarter pound patties and 40 or 60, now I can't remember, brats. So that should be plenty. No, if you're vegetarian, all I got for you is
I got a toast and you're missing a beef.
Here's a bun for you.
So, I don't think that this should all come out of Commissioner Wakefield's pocket. So if anybody wants to pony up and solicit donations from commissioners.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I don't know what JS Spending is gonna charge. I think I spent $100 at Walmart already on plates and stuff. If I remember right, the boxes of burgers were like $80 a piece. Got 2 of them, and brats probably another 40. I mean, it's with whatever Adam's about to spend, probably $100 a commissioner if you find.
Yeah, I'm gonna get run to eat and stuff like that. Like case of pasta.
But I can get invoices if you want. It doesn't really matter. It's just whatever you want to chip in, no problem.
And I do think that it goes to really show our appreciation for, I think Commissioner Gertz from Eddie County said it best at the law enforcement center one time. It's our most important assets, and showing our appreciation for them. And that would be our employees. So a big hearty thank you to all of them for all that they do. And thank you for Commissioner Wakefield and others that have stepped up and organized and taken the lead on this. We appreciate that.
Job cook.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. I like grilling burgers. I was in the Georgetown University Grilling Society. I'm serious.
Fantastic. So,
I got one announcement. I wish. I know we got the picnic going on at the same time. 1:30 on Friday, Carrie Godness is getting invested as a judge. She was a prior state's attorney. I know you all can't be there, but send her a good thought or a letter. Congratulations. It's definitely deserved and earned. So,
Do you have her new email?
I can get it for you.
I will contact you.
Where's her station again?
Her main courtroom is out of Langdon, but she does Langdon and Femina. And then covers the Grafton if she needs to, which she would. It's about third as busy as just out of county. Really well. So we got her well. Anyway,
So thanks for letting us know and congratulations, Gary. That's great.
yeah, congratulations, Gary.
Anything
else for the good of?
Yeah, there is no order here anymore.
We'll